Did you know that VeggieTales and Genshin Impact, as different as those franchises are, share four voice actors, but I've talked to three of them. From, October 2022 to maybe May 2023, I was blessed with the opportunity to talk to three incredibly talented individuals: Sean Chiplock, Stephanie Southerland, and Buckland. I have so much admiration for these guys. They're incredible. And it was such an honor to talk to them. These are like my first, or among my first interviews with official crew members. I was kind of smitten, to be honest. And the way I projected myself, I'm like, okay, I gotta be real professional here so I don't mess up. I can't mess it up. So I'd kind of talk like this. I'd talk kind of lower. Welcome back to the podcast. This is great. Yeah, I got you. Oh, yeah, there we go. I don't do that now. I can't fake it. I gotta have fun. But I still think they turned out pretty good. And on the guests' end, turned out fantastic. So here are my interviews with Sean Chiplock, Stephanie Southerland, and Buckland, updated for 2025. Oh, I sent each of them a message the other day, a voice message, just to kind of go, hey, y'all really helped me launch into what I'm doing here by being the first official people to put up with me and, and join the show. I really appreciate y'all. They're great people. They really are. Anyway, here's the show.
If you love your veggies and want more to know, then I've got for you a spectacular show. We be giving the facts in this lyrical rhyme, bringing in guests quite a lot of the time. If you search for your hairbrush and like cheeseburgers too, then I'm happy to say we've got a show for you.
I'm doing pretty well. I'm waiting with bated breath for the temperature to finally start dropping around here. Same with the gas prices. I thought they were finally dwindling down. We had just gone under $6 a week and a half ago. And I went to go fill my tank the other day, and it had gone up back as high as $7.13 in some places. So
$7.13, my gosh.
$7.13. That's properly like in the city, though. If you manage to get out closer to the borders, you're still hovering around like $5.85, $6.50. But I saw it. It was $7.16 for the medium grade.
That's insane. It's gone down in my area, thank goodness, the temperature and the gas. But
what's it sitting at for you right now?
Oh gosh, I'd have to look. Last time I got it, it was only like $3 or $4. So it's
How
better.
Dare you?
Better.
How
I know.
dare you? This is why the rate on video games is going up. Is because we need it just to afford the tank of gas that we spent getting to the city.
For real, I know.
Snores every night like a runaway choo-choo.
Awful Alvin.
It would be such fun to match wits with you again.
I'll have to hope I can find some references during the interview. I think I've got it for Awful Alvin and probably Scooter, but if there's a third one, I think I know which one it is. I'm going to have to probably look it up or just wing it.
So what is your earliest memory of the VeggieTales franchise? Did you grow up with it, or were you just kind of roped into it when Universal reached out to you?
So VeggieTales was interesting because it was kind of a passive experience for me. I didn't tend to watch the channels that VeggieTales aired on, but I was aware of its existence primarily because of internet memes and stuff like that, but also because, there were a lot of genuinely good songs and good clips, and I could tell that it was a show designed around, teaching morals to people. And I've always been a big fan of shows that teach how to be a good person in general, that aren't trying to push, certain politics or certain ideologies on anyone, but it really just here's how to properly handle a given situation. And that's something that I like about, the themes of Christianity in general, is that at its core, it's meant to teach people how to be good to each other, how almost kind of like an Aesop's fables sort of thing. So it's kind of funny to me that I knew about the show mostly through internet parodies and jokes and clips taken out of context. I'm sure all of us can remember seeing the GIF image at least once of the little tomato guy, looking off to the side and then looking down in despair.
Yep.
Very much a mood. But I'm glad that through getting to work on it, I came to appreciate the actual content of the show itself. I wouldn't even necessarily say it's geared towards kids, although they can be a little bit higher energy. The folks with accents play them up a little bit. But it's all fun. It's all fun at the end of the day. And I'm very much a person of passion who enjoys having fun with what they're doing. I wouldn't say I grew up with it per se, although I will say that I was aware of it as I grew up. It wasn't part of my regular routine watching, but it was something that I was aware of by the time that I got involved with the show. So I wasn't going in completely blind.
That's true. Yeah, you were familiar with aspects of it. So what got you involved with the show? I'm guessing they reached out to you. Did you reach out to them first and say, hey?
No, that's a really good question. My gut tells me that a colleague of mine, I think possibly Kira Buckland that was working on it, had either referred me to the client because, we've worked together on a whole lot of projects. I want to say that's the reason, just because I wasn't familiar with Trilogy animation prior to that. So the only two things I can think of are either I was referred to them by someone already working with them, or I happened to audition for something on like a site like Voice123, and that's how they found me. Because I've had cases like, for example, I got involved with the Fruit Ninja mobile game through a casting call that was put on Voice123. But my gut is telling me it was a fellow cast member referral, because I distinctly remember talking to her about that. But outside of that, it wasn't really much different than the typical process that happens when you're recording auditions for animation or video games. I would say, I believe this was definitely before the pandemic, so they had the luxury of asking if I would come in person to audition. And clients can do that for many different reasons. They may want to, get an idea of how you're going to sound on the final equipment that you're going to be recording with. They may want to see what you're capable of doing in terms of adapting on the fly, versus if they just have you submit an audition remotely, you kind of have all the time in the world to finesse your takes. And I'm sure that with some productions, they may be on a time crunch. So it's like, we can't afford to have to send this back for revisions. We need to know that they can give the specific performance that we're looking for. So they brought me in, I went into one of their booths at their recording space or building that they were either owners of or borrowing or something like that. And, they gave me a sample script. We went through a sample scene. I performed it a couple different times with some different types of voices, either, heavier or lighter on the accent, or maybe just trying, slightly older or younger, or even just trying it in a completely different direction. And at that point in the process, usually the casting director will review over the files and talk with the team and figure out if that kind of meets their vision of what they want for the character. If it's the best fit, so to speak, out of everyone else who auditioned. And I guess they were really happy, or in some cases, it's just a matter of, can this actor cover a wide range? Does the voice, is it reasonably good fitting for the character? But also, if that actor is capable of covering 3, 4, or 5 different characters in a single production, that helps them get their stuff done faster. And it also saves them some money, because they don't have to hire 3, 4, 5 different actors and pay them separate paychecks for one character each. And that's very common in the industry. In fact, most of our contracts are based on an hourly, so like a 2-hour or 4-hour minimum. And so while the union may put restrictions on how many characters you can do, it's like, oh, it's up to 5 characters, but anything after that, you have to pay a certain amount extra. It's very rare that happens, except in like very, very end of post-production, when they're just trying to fill any last holes in that they forgot about. So it was pretty par for the course. I did the standard number of characters. They weren't, and none of them were particularly tough on my voice, and we were able to cover a lot of ground.
That's awesome. That's awesome. In this process, did you get to meet Phil Vischer or Mike Naraki?
I believe I got to meet at least one of them, because a lot of the sessions would often have them chiming in remotely via Skype or Zoom or something else. But I do know there was at least one case where I was working with them on the opposite side of the room, like, through the looking glass. So I got a chance to talk to them afterwards and say hi and tell them how much I appreciate that the franchise was being given a second chance,
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And when they first got you in, you said they were it was one of the other clients, Kira Buckland or something, who had referred you to them.
I believe so.
Did they bring you in for all 3 characters originally, or did they bring you in for a specific character, or did they just say, what can you do?
I think it started with Awful Alvin, and they later had me submit additional samples for Scalini and Scooter. And then when they had me come in for Alvin, they also had me start doing some stuff for Scooter and Scalini. So I believe it started with Awful Alvin, because he was the one easily with the most lines out of anybody. And then the other 2 were picked up later on. But that's a good question. That does happen sometimes. A similar thing happened with Breath of the Wild, in fact, where originally I was only cast as the Great Deku Tree, and then somewhere along production, Rivali ended up being up for grabs, and they had me record samples. And then halfway through doing Rivali, they asked if I could do another bird and make him sound distinct, and that's how I got Teba. So
that's pretty cool. It
happens. Yeah.
And you mentioned that you were in Fruit Ninja too. What did you do for Fruit Ninja?
Oh man. So many. This is like one of those first world blessings and curses at the same time, is when you start reaching a certain level of busyness, it can get hard to remember specifically what you did for each project. I might have it on my public resume. Let me load this up real quick and see if I bothered to save it. Control F, fruit. I
definitely
did
grew up
not
with
save Fruit Ninja. Is it in my email? There we go. Is this it? I think I did stuff for the Street Magician and Rinjin. Rinjin was the character that I played. And I think I might be able to share this with you, but they gave me some promotional videos of me performing as Rinjin that I was able to share as well. Let me see. Yeah, let me see if I can find a quick photo online. Ah, yes. I remember this lad. Let me share a quick image to you. There you go.
Let me check that out.
I remember him. He was kind of the kind of darker, slightly edgier ninja type person.
The drive file or the wiki page?
The second one.
Second one, gotcha.
Has the image of him.
One moment. Oh, there we go. There we go. Yeah.
It's always fun for me when like there's these franchises that I'm passively aware of, even if I wasn't actively playing them back in the day, but then I officially get to be a part of. Mostly because one, it lets me learn about that universe without necessarily having to have played through it, but also it lets me connect to a completely different community.
Exactly. Yeah, like the fandom, we all know who Sean Chiplock is because
oh my gosh, they talk about me consistently.
Oh yeah, because you were in the VeggieTales show. That's a big deal because Scooter was such a big character in the original VeggieTales series. So it's the fact that you got to carry him on.
Yeah.
Awful Alvin was less of a big character in the original series, and so the fact that he came back was such a big deal. What I find interesting, Caper with Scalini, that was episode 11. First time Awful Alvin shows up is, I believe, episode 19 in the Angry Eyebrows. So that's like, those are like 8 episodes apart. And you said you were doing those at the same time, like coming in to do all the lines.
They were separate. I think we might have actually done episode 19 first. I mean, I wouldn't purport to know like how the writing side of things goes, but maybe sometimes they have a particular idea ready before something else, and then they'll, order it differently later on. Or it may be a matter of, maybe they assign different animators to different episodes, and maybe certain animators turn in certain sections earlier than others. So the whole production process is a cluster of different people and different jobs, and I wouldn't even begin to know the actual order to things. I just know that as a voice actor, I tend to come in towards the end of things, where it's like, okay, we've got the storyboard, we've got the script finished, now we need the voices so that the animators can finish animating around it. And so I'm usually in like the second half to maybe the last quarter of that entire production.
That's awesome. So you willing to do some of the voices for the people listening if you can remember them?
I know Scooter's the easiest one. He's the one that lets me practice my Scottish accent. I used to be able to do, I can't do Irish as well. Like every time I try to do Irish, I fall into Scottish. But that's why I like Scooter, is he's got like that deep baritone gravel rasp, and he just like, I always try to imitate one of those Highlanders from Samurai Jack, if you remember that. So he's very fun. And I remember, it's probably funny watching my face as I do this. Awful Alvin is kind of, he's very meticulous and figuring out what he's going to do. He's a little nasal when he works in the upper part of his face. And, he's also very lonely the way that he talks to his lamp. And he's like, you're so smart. I love you. You're so brilliant. I don't remember, was Scalini, I don't want to say stereotypical, but was he kind of like the Italian accent that most people think of when they think of an Italian accent?
Kind of, like you wouldn't say police, you'd say policio, right?
Policio.
Kind of.
I don't remember if he was higher pitched and talked like this, or if he was someone a bit more sinister. But he was probably the toughest of the three to do because I was not as familiar with that accent. I had to do some lookups beforehand, but also because I was trying to find a good balance between him being, genuinely threatening as a villain without being too ridiculously comedic,
Yeah, I got you. Because like in the classic series, I know they'd always have problems making the villains too scary, where parents would write in and say, "Hey, this terrified my kid."
Oh my, that's something I struggle with is when they need to be a bad guy, but they don't want them to be intimidating or scary for kids. I almost wonder if like I need to just not make them sound evil at all when I do those auditions, because for all I know, maybe they're just exaggerated. You know, they're high energy, and that's what paints them as evil because they're not normal. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm just talking, and when I think about like we've seen some of these projects come out for like superheroes and stuff like that, and you know I've had a chance to read for a couple of them, but I haven't had the good fortune yet of managing to land one. So it's just something to think about, to reflect on as an actor as I continue to grow.
I got you. Now I'm going to ask you to do something weird here, okay? I don't know if you ever
Okay.
watched the original Larry Bourne the Angry Eyebrows from 2002.
I did not.
No, okay. Well, Awful Alvin in that episode, he goes, "Dance with me, Lampy," and people really wanted that to be in the new one. So give them your Awful Alvin saying.
Okay. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, is this October 8th, 2018? All right, let me see this.
Now we shall do the villainous dance of
The villainous dance of villainy.
To signify the imminent performance of our villainous duty.
Villainous duties. Okay.
Now we must do the villainous dance of villainy to prepare everyone for the performance of our villainousness.
And then let's all right, and then he does the dance. Oh my, he's grooving. And then Lampy doesn't do anything. Okay.
Dance with me, Lampy!
Dance with me, Lampy!
There we go. That makes
There you
me so
go.
happy. There we go. It's canon now. It's canon. Sean Chiplock's Awful Alvin has said, "Dance with me, Lampy."
I love Lampy.
I know Lampy's the best.
He's so bright.
He is. They've been silent
I
for a little
have no idea. I know that there's like other IPs or other projects that the same team has looked at trying to jumpstart and get involved with, and I've had a chance to read for those. At the moment, I don't know anything about future VeggieTales productions, but I also know that even if I did know, if it wasn't already public knowledge, I, as an actor, would not be allowed to talk about that.
Yeah, fair enough.
There's various reasons why that happens. It may be because the company has a specific marketing idea planned. You know, it may be related to like selling merchandise or something like that. And the timely release of confidential information is very important to these companies. Whether it's because of FOMO or whether it's because of building off of the hype. You know, if the show is meant to release in, say, March, and I talk about it back in November, and everyone finds out about it like 5 months in advance. 5 months is a lot of time to pass before the show actually comes out, versus if the company specifically plans to announce it at like the end of February and says, "Hey, in 1 week, there's a brand new, you know, version of the show coming out." That's very important to them. So
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
generally, the way the rule of thumb goes is if I'm allowed to talk about it, I probably have already talked about it, because I hate having to wait. I hate having to like keep quiet about my work, even though I do for legal reasons. But if I haven't talked about it, it's almost certainly because either I don't know or I do know and I'm not allowed to say. And in both cases, there's nothing to be gained.
I always find it strange when a franchise just like consistently makes shows and they just like stop and they're silent, you know, which is where VeggieTales is right now.
Mm-hmm.
Which is just odd to me, because I know they did the 26 episodes of the VeggieTales show, which you were involved in.
Mm-hmm.
And then they took a break, and then they did a podcast series and recasted everyone for this podcast series, which was very, very odd. And they had Scooter in there too, but it was some other person. It was very odd. It was very odd all the way through.
Okay.
And then they ended that all of a sudden, and now they've just been silent.
Okay.
I'm like,
I wouldn't know anything about that, and I certainly hope that I didn't accidentally end up stepping on any toes by getting involved in the project.
Oh no, definitely not. Definitely not. I know they recasted Phil and Mike, and then they just had the same people who are doing Phil and Mike's voices now do everyone's voices. Yeah, no, it had nothing to do with anybody who was on the VeggieTales show. It just had to do with now they just have all the boy characters being voiced by like the same person. You know.
I see.
Yeah. And that's why people were wondering if it was you, because they were like, you know, I wonder if since Sean Chiplock, you have the voice range for it. They were wondering if you were doing all the voices now.
Nope. I just did those 3. I haven't been back since, so I don't know what the current plans are. And you know, if they bring me back, great. If they don't, I won't be bothered. I try to not get myself too attached to anything in this industry, and it's not out of a lack of passion. Like I love being a part of the things that I'm a part of, but like when we see what happened with like Metal Gear Solid 5, when we see what happened with the Powerpuff Girls reboot, when we see, what you mentioned just happened with the podcast, you never know when things are going to shift around, whether the client is going to be like, okay, well, we want someone cheaper, or we want someone different, or we just want to take this in a different direction. You never know when things are gonna jump ship or take a turn. So I just try to be grateful for everything that I have and push myself to do the best job that I can do with each opportunity that I'm given.
I think that's the best way to live. I would imagine they would bring you back whenever they start making the cartoons again, because I'm sure they will eventually. It's a big franchise. For the podcast, Scooter only made like 2 really short appearances, and Awful Alvin didn't make any appearances, right? So I think they just had the same guy do everything, since it was just like 2 little lines.
So what was the podcast about? Like, what was its focus? An episodic, like a radio play, or is it like literally the VeggieTales characters just talking like their normal podcast, like VTubers and stuff like that?
No, it was like a episode type of thing. It was just like an episode that wasn't animated.
Okay, I'm familiar. I did something similar to that called Big Life Kids, which was this audio production of these 2 young kids going on all these weird adventures and learning, how to have a growth mindset and believe in themselves. So now that does seem very familiar.
Yeah. And that dropped in I believe May, and they wrapped it up in August, and they haven't announced anything since.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's still relatively early. I mean, that's only what, 2 months ago? Barely.
That's true. It's not that bad. They haven't done an animated show since like April though, because that was when the last VeggieTales show came out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully they still have the budget for it. I genuinely have no idea what the reasoning could be.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing with Phil and Mike, I think that they had asked for more creative control of the franchise, because Universal reached out to them and said, hey, we're making this podcast. You guys can do the voices. And Phil and Mike were like, yeah, we can do the voices, but can we do some scripts too, and have a little bit, because they created the show,
Right. Of course.
Yeah. So they were like, can we have a little more involvement? And Universal was like, get out. And then they just found someone to do like every voice. So
all right. Well, like I said, sometimes they just want to save money by getting someone who can cover a lot more roles, and that happens sometimes.
I'm sure they'll get back on their flow eventually.
For sure.
So of the 3 characters you voiced, who was your favorite to voice?
Ooh, I have to say it was probably Awful Alvin. I did enjoy doing the accent as Scooter, but I like that Awful Alvin just had this kind of I'm trying to think of the proper word to use. He had this energy to him that I really enjoyed. I really liked how he amused himself, how he kind of projected his thoughts onto Lampy and then reacted to something that, for all we know, wasn't speaking back to him. I liked the chances that I got that I had to chuckle to myself or just add that little bit of extra life to stuff. I always enjoy playing characters that are more expressive and higher energy, and so Awful Alvin was someone I immediately connected with, and it's pretty straightforward that I liked him a lot.
I love the laugh for Awful Alvin. I just love it. The laugh he did, like that kind of stuff.
I don't remember the specific laugh. Right. Imagine it was something like.
That's it. That's exactly it.
There you go.
And you said you hadn't seen the original one before, right?
No, I hadn't, or at least not beyond like small clips and stuff like that.
Okay, so the fact that you were able to imitate that voice so perfectly without even having heard it, like if you heard the original one and then the one you did, they sound so similar and so
good,
perfectly in line. It's just amazing,
Good. I'm very glad.
It's amazing. And Scooter sounded really good too. All of them sounded good.
Good. As long as I'm not offending anybody, that's what matters most to me.
No, you did a great job. You did an amazing job. The voice range is just amazing.
Thank you.
And of all the voices you voiced outside of VeggieTales as well, what's your favorite voice you've done, and what's for what show franchise?
My usual response to that is, obviously I've had the amazing opportunity to voice a lot of major characters, recurring characters, or like unique characters. For example, Stiltskin and a bunch of other characters in Crystal Chronicles Remastered is a big deal for me, even though it's a very niche fan base, just because that was a game that I played incessantly when I was growing up. But in general, I actually try to deny myself picking an absolute favorite, just because I'm worried about resting my laurels on that particular role and then comparing everything else to it and being like, oh, this new role was fun, but it wasn't as fun as this one, or it wasn't as challenging as this one. So instead, I just try to find something I cherish about each role. In the case of VeggieTales, it was a case of getting to explore original animation of something that I knew had been around for a couple decades at this point. With stuff like Breath of the Wild, it wasn't even because it was a Nintendo property. It was because I got to portray 3 completely different characters vocally in the first voiced version of a franchise historically known for never having voices, which meant the bar was set very high after stuff like the CDI games. And so whether it's a challenge that I overcame or something that I knew I would do well on, or even just a new milestone for myself, I cherish everything that I do, because that way I can learn from it and find what is familiar to me with each new job that I do. But also it's so that I never become complacent in, like, I try to recognize that for every job I get to do, that's a job that was denied for somebody else. And so it kind of keeps me humble and reminds me that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of hungry actors, quote unquote, that would love to have the same opportunity. So if I'm going to be the one that has it, I need to make sure that I put my all into it.
That's a great mindset, honestly. It really shows how much you care about what you do.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's awesome.
What has not been explored yet, or what is a scenario that hasn't happened yet in VeggieTales that you would love to see the characters interact with in a future episode if it came back?
You know, I love some of the like really original characters, you know, from like the early 90s to come back in with the newer characters.
Because you know how in the past they've done like crossovers where like Fairly Odd Parents mixed with Jimmy Neutron and stuff like that?
Oh yeah.
Would you want to see like a medium mix where it's like the old 3D animation characters meet the reboot animation characters?
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Maybe there's like a unique problem that the 3D characters are able to solve that the 2D characters need help with, or something else. But I always enjoy when you get like past meets future with that, especially when it combines like the different cast members as well.
That would be cool. That'd be really cool. You know, some of the VeggieTales fan animators in the fandom have actually done something similar to that, where they make models of the old ones and the new ones and make them interact. And then the Netflix series, which people got so mad about because of the redesigns, they're always talking about that in the fandom.
Right. So have they ever done like a reanimated episode of VeggieTales where it's like a bunch of animators come together and each do a section and they animate an entire episode in their own style?
They have tried to start those a few times and they never finish. I don't know if they just can't get enough people to do it or what. They always set the bar too high, you know? Like they're like, we need 500 people, and it's like, you know, you're not going to get, I mean, it's going to be hard anyway to get 500 people. I mean, they probably could, but it's kind of setting it a little too high. So if they set it a little lower, they probably could do that because they have tried a few times.
Hey, Finn from 2025 here. Fun fact, Rack Shack and Benny remolded. Go check it out. Continuing now.
You never know. You just gotta it seems ironic to say for a series like VeggieTales, but you just gotta have faith.
There you go. That's the best thing you can do. Well, it's been an honor talking to you. I really, really appreciate you making the time to join the show.
Again, I'm so appreciative that you were able to make the time for me. I hope the fans enjoy this as well. And, you know, to anyone that might be watching this, my Twitter DMs are open. You know, I can't always promise that I'll respond right away, but I try not to keep myself locked off from the people supporting me. So feel free to reach out if you want to send some praise or if you have a question. But thank you for being as passionate as you are and for making careers like mine possible.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And thank you for doing what you're doing. Just keep doing it. All
right.
Alrighty, this has been Finnegan Royal on the Ultimate Unofficial VeggieTales podcast with Sean Chiplock signing out, and we'll see you all next time. Goodbye.
Take care and don't get in trouble!
That was my interview with the great Sean Chiplock from October of 2022. Now we'll fast forward to, I want to say, April or May of 2023. I don't have the exact date anymore, where we did a follow-up pretty much unrelated to VeggieTales, and we focus more on life advice and career advice and aspirations here, and honestly, there might be even more to garner this time around. I wasn't the best interviewer back in the day. I'm not saying I am now. I've definitely gotten better, but Sean Chiplock definitely knows how to carry a conversation.
So, looking at the first question, though, what are your future aspirations for your VO work? I guess I want to know what drew you to that question. Are you more interested in like what I'm looking to expand into, or is this more of a where do you see yourself in 5 years kind of business interview? What specifically is catching your interest about this question?
Okay, so whenever I've asked people this in the past, I'm mostly thinking like, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what are projects you would like to get involved in? What are things you see people working on that you're thinking, I would love to apply for that?
Sure. Well, it's for me, it tends to feel like it's all encompassing and not really specific. And I know that can be hindering at times, but the way I've always looked at the industry is, there are people who have skill sets in a wide variety of different things. Like they're a voice actor, but they're also a script writer or also a director, or something like that. Whereas I've noticed that I tend to be very routine in what I do. You know, I do voice acting, and outside of that, I do streaming. But other than that, I really enjoy just gaming for myself and spending time with friends. I enjoy food, but it's not like I want to become a food reviewer. So what I'm getting at with that is because my skill set is so singular. Granted, I think I could do streaming as a career. You know, I can tell that I have the charisma and the ideas and the energy if I wanted to pour more time and investment into that to become a content creator. But I'm not particularly interested in doing that because voice acting provides me with the financials that I need. Does that make sense?
It does.
Where it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'd be scared about making it into another job. So the way that I look at it is if I'm going to make voice acting the thing that pays me enough to do what I want to do outside of it, then I better be able to work that career as frequently as possible. So, you know, there are obviously things that I would enjoy working on. For example, you know, we got the Etrian Odyssey collection coming out very soon, and I've told people multiple times that I would platonically kill somebody to get a chance to audition for if there were ever a new game in that franchise being made, I'd love to have the chance to audition for it or perform on it. I am actively taking workshops to try and expand my skill set. Like literally after this interview, I have a 3-hour animation workout, so to speak, like a mock audition process, because
Dang.
I'm trying so hard to get further into the prelate animation world, which is notoriously difficult to get into. I also just had my an official commercial demo done for the first time. I'm very lucky to say that I booked I think at this point it is a television commercial that paid
Nice.
a very decent amount shortly after getting that demo done. So it's nice to know that I'm getting my foot in that sector. Where this is all leading is, you know, in 5 years, I hope that I'm still doing what I'm doing now. I'm having a blast doing it. You know, I love I don't want to say the respect, but the opportunity that I've had to interact with people through projects like Genshin Impact. You know, there's projects coming down the pipeline that I'm very honored to be a part of. And my hope is that in 5 years, I will still be doing all of that. I just have access to more things because I'm continuously improving as an actor. But my aspirations outside of that are very widespread. It's just, you know, if I can be doing commercial, that's great. If I can be doing more prelate, that'd be great. If I can continue to be doing anime and video games and widen the number of clients and studios that trust in my work and want to work with me, great. But I try not to hinder myself. I try not to narrow my focus accidentally by saying I really want to do this, because if I let myself get so focused on trying to achieve that, I worry that I myself will inadvertently blind myself to the opportunities around me. And so instead, I try to have faith in the process of, if you do the best that you can and let people know what you're interested in, those opportunities will come along one way or another. I know that was a very long-winded answer to that question, but
No, that's very smart. That's a completely different perspective than what I thought of. Because when I think of, like, you know, what do I want to be doing in 5 years? I'm thinking I want to reach out to this specific company, and I love to work on this show, and I'd love to develop
Right.
voices for something along this, you know. But like that really does blind you to opportunities that come in that you maybe don't think about.
There's a hilarious example that is very true to form. There is a client that I, over the years, have worked on multiple adult projects, like I'm talking like adult content projects. And you know, I would never say that, oh, I want my career to be based around adult content projects. I don't have an internal desire to do more adult content projects. I'm just cool with it. You know, I'm very sex positive. It doesn't bother me. So I wouldn't mind if I'm doing that stuff in 5 years. The reason why I bring that up is because even though I didn't feel like I had anything particular to gain from doing adult projects, I still took part in these. I still built a relationship with that casting director, with that colleague who was referring me. That very same colleague ended up being the person who referred me to a different client that was doing casting for Gunvolt 3. So
Wow.
completely unrelated, you would think, but it is a direct cause and effect. We're building that relationship with that person through those adult projects. led to me having the opportunity to voice the main character of a series co-produced by Keiji Inafune of Mega Man fame that I might otherwise have never even had the chance to audition for in the first place. So it's stuff like that where it's like, oh, an aspiration of mine would absolutely to work on something Mega Man related or something that Keiji Inafune has worked on. But who in their right mind would have thought that the way of achieving that would have come from working on adult content projects? You know what I mean?
I do know what you're
But
saying.
that's
Yeah.
why I try to keep it widespread, because you have no idea where those opportunities are going to come from.
You have a goal and you might think there's a specific way to achieve it, but sometimes the way to get to that goal is through other things that you just don't think about.
Yep.
That's very interesting. Well, I appreciate you sharing that, man. So
Yeah.
what is your advice for aspiring actors, which I'm sure we touched on in our interview, but I'd just love to reiterate that for this.
Sure. Well, this is a very timely question for someone like me to answer. I'm sure we're going to get all kinds of answers on the professional side of, do your research, the same way that aspiring writers should be reading all the time so that they can see what's on the market and what's popular. Actors who want to work in certain sectors should be watching the projects that are coming out in those sectors, and learning, what are the trends, who are the actors that are working over and over and over and over. Excuse me, that's the congestion getting me. Over and over and over again. What are they doing that's working so well for the market? Obviously work within your communities, get to know your peers and get to know your colleagues, the people who are going to become your castmates later down the line. And it sounds like you're going to be interviewing a lot of other professionals as well. So I'm sure you'll get some extra answers on the professional side. But the one I prefer to offer is the personal side for aspiring actors is, a lot of us grew up in the age of the internet becoming this more widespread thing. And of course, now the next generation are people who've grown up with the internet their entire lives. And of course, it has provided all of this access, all of this, all of these different resources. But the thing that a lot of people still don't grasp, and even I fall victim to this sometimes, is with the enormity of the internet also comes this level of responsibility. Because anyone has access there. Anybody, no matter what creed, no matter what belief system, no matter their opinions on things, no matter their experience with certain things, everyone has a voice. And as the internet puts us into these communities together and implements ways for communities to self organize and self mandate, it also gives power to those people, regardless of how qualified they may be. All of this to say, because I'm not trying to get into like a vent or a rant. A lot of people know recently that my Twitter got suspended permanently, and I don't know if I'm going to be getting it back. Now, it sucks, although I'm still grateful for the fact that, I have my work and, I know myself as a person that for whatever reason it got suspended probably wasn't valid. But the fact is, while I wasn't given a reason, there is no stated reason for why it was suspended. There are theories. I can look back to interactions that I've had and say, is there something that could have led to something like this? Because with any system that operates on user reports, there's going to be a system in place for, okay, if we get a mass number of reports, either we have someone act on it or we have a system set up to automatically handle it. Well, I know for a fact that, I poked the lion at times, when it came to stuff like Genshin Impact, there were people that were hoping to catch me doing something, weird. And I would be like, oh, well, the trolls are keeping track of me. So here's one for you guys. Like, don't think I'm not aware of what's going on. But when you deliberately poke the lion, poke the bear like that, you are taking the risk that people either meaningfully or unintentionally are going to react a certain way. And so I can't say, oh, I'm a perfect saint. There's nothing that I did wrong that could have led to this. Even if I think it's not justified, my belief is that I may have annoyed people to where they were like, let's mass report him, because we think he's a certain type of person or we feel like he hasn't been punished. And so we're going to do something about it. Getting off of that topic, because this isn't about me, what the answer to that question is you have to know what battles to pick, what battles to take. You may think that you are having a fun time, mocking a certain toxic form of a community. You may think that you're getting someone or winning an argument or something like that. but you really have to step back and ask yourself, is this worth my time? Is this worth my effort? And perhaps even more importantly, is this worth the risk that I'm putting myself in? If someone decides that I don't even know how to word it, but if you piss off the wrong person on the internet, they probably have access to ways to make your life hell. Or if enough people decide that they don't like what you're doing, they have access to ways to punish or seek justice that are outside of your control, because communities now are way too big for a small team of managers to take care of. There has to be some element of I don't know what the word is, self-management within the community, but that also means it's open to being abused. You see it all the time. You see, folks from a political side of the spectrum mass reporting someone who identifies as LGBT because they don't think gay people should have rights. You may have people who falsely accuse someone of, I'm trying to think of when the Smash community, when all that happened, they were convinced that someone was engaged in inappropriate behavior and they mass reported their Twitch account to have it banned, stuff like that. So you just have to be aware that what you do and what you say has an impact, whether or not it deserves to. And so the thing that I would say to people that want to become actors is, if you're going to be building any sort of following, if you're going to be building any sort of audience, if you're going to be marketing and branding yourself on a consistent basis, you need to be aware of what you're doing and saying. You have to be aware of how wide an audience you are reaching. And it may mean that you have to sanitize yourself a bit, that you have to be cautious about what you do and what you say, because it may be funny to you. It may be funny to your inner group of friends. It may be funny to people who are in the know. But if enough people don't know or don't care or find it offensive for whatever reason, you could have to deal with the repercussions of that, And in my case, I'm still working. I still have clients who trust me. I'm still going to conventions. It hasn't affected my career, thank God. But I'm going to admit, it sucks not having access to the 80,000 people who supported me. It sucks that, I have a manager running a PR account so that I can keep to my obligations to my clients and conventions, but I'm not allowed to run that account. I'm not allowed to post on that account. I can't interact on that social media. And in a world where it's increasingly more necessary to be always connected, to be interacting with fans, to have a marketable face, that networks and companies can make use of, it worries me, because now I'm sitting here going, what did I trade in? Did I dunk on some haters in exchange for now not being able to consistently market myself? How is that going to affect how clients see me? How is that going to affect my ability to show events that I'm someone that they should bring because I've got this poll online? It's all very gross to think about from a celebrity perspective, but it's a very real thing. And I'll be honest, it wasn't worth the trade-off. So that is what I would say to aspiring actors is, pick your battles, because some of them, even if you win, weren't worth winning. The reality of the fact is there are a lot of emotionally charged people that have access to stuff online. I'm not saying this as like an excuse for why others' opinions don't matter, but you have to understand, in a world where people are working constantly, where, folks are stuck at jobs, where there's a lot of people feel lost or that they don't have a future, the internet gives them a place to belong. They may use it as an escape. They may use it as a replacement form of therapy when they can't afford a therapist on their own. There are going to be emotionally charged or underdeveloped or emotionally immature folks online who have just the same rights and access as everybody else. And the problem is, you don't know who you're talking to. You don't know who you're interacting with. A perfect example being a Genshin colleague who ended up in the hospital because of some injury, and because they voiced a character that a lot of people found was irredeemable or evil in the game, there were folks wishing harm or even death upon this colleague because the character that they voiced was an evil person in the game. This is the kind of mentality that we're thinking about, and these same people have access to report buttons, to block buttons, they have access to message the actors, to DM people. These are all folks that you have to be aware of that share the space that you are also using. And so you have to ask yourself, is what I'm about to say or what I want to say worth it? Is this fight that I want to pick worth it? And now that's not to say you shouldn't stand up for anything. You need to stand up for your beliefs and what's important to you. I will fight for trans rights till the end of my natural lifespan. But when it comes to things that are less important than that, when it comes to things that you could honestly just not say anything and be fine about, it is so important to ask yourself, how worth it is it for me to take part in this? How valuable is my contribution really versus what I'm risking to do it?
Agreed. And sometimes, even for like a very serious issue that you're very fervent about and you agree with, trying to convince one person they're wrong isn't going to, in the long run, do much, like, which gets tricky because it's like, I want to step in, this person's wrong, they're saying something that is wrong and that's hurtful, and if the wrong person hears that, and they're going to get hurt. At the same time, me jumping into that and getting into an actual argument with the person is very likely just going to make them more convinced of their side,
Right. And it's unfortunate that I had to learn it the hard way. I'd like to think I've gotten better about it, but I guess not enough. So there's still some lessons to be learned. But like I said, I'm glad to be doing what I do, and it's just about, doing it better next time. So
fair enough. You learn from every interaction, which is it's so tricky to navigate. Like you said, anyone has access to the internet and anyone can post anything they want, and it's easy to get on YouTube and see someone post something stupid and be like, that's insane. They are so stuck in that one perspective, and you want to say something. It's tricky.
You can hardly go wrong from just focusing on the good, Spend your time and energy lifting up and supporting the good instead of trying to push back against the bad. Well, I should say in a social construct, obviously push back against bad things like Nazis and rights being taken away. But it's better to spend your time uplifting supportive communities than trying to justify yourself to those that want to make you suffer.
Exactly.
Yep.
Anyone who happens across this, even if they're not a voice actor, will really pull from. Everyone, including those who aren't necessarily interested in what I do on my channel. That's something anyone can pull from.
I do, in general, when I give advice, I try to make it something that can apply to folks beyond the content creation sphere, because I found that a lot of things that lead to successful voice actors can really just be applied to becoming a successful person in general. It's the core tenets that lead to success rather than a specific skill set or a specific craft. So,
yeah, just put love out there and be a good person,
For sure.
And then if they ban you and you're doing something that isn't worth getting banned, then you just got to say, oh, whatever. And then
also, because the best defense against any accusation is going to be your own behavior.
Exactly.
If people want to make accusations about you, but there's no evidence to support that, then you have nothing to be afraid of, because anyone worth their salt who's going to do research into, okay, well, what evidence is there of this? What credence is there to these accusations? It's going to be like, there's nothing here, unless I fabricate it. So
exactly. And people will try to fabricate things. I had one person
that's true. AI is going to make the world a hell of an interesting place.
Yes, it's terrifying. It's like, what is the future for voice actors?
Right.
Like, if someone
That's a whole separate topic for a whole separate period, but it has very much been on our minds. I can tell you that much.
It's been on my mind for sure, because like if you can literally create a dialogue of Bugs Bunny talking exactly how Mel Blanc had him talking,
right?
You can make a whole movie with that. So why do you need a person to? You know what I mean? Like that. I don't know. I don't like
stuff we're fighting for. There's many discussions yet to be had.
Yeah, I don't like it. It's interesting. It's neat to use in like a little meme or whatever. But like in general, I would be happy if we could just go back to the YTP days of sentence splicing.
For sure.
Well, thank you so much, Ming. Enjoy your class. You said it's 3 hours, right?
Yeah. They typically last from like 6 to 9 p.m.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Dang. We'll enjoy that.
We'll see. We'll see if this holds up in the meantime.
I really appreciate making time for very small content creators, especially something so niche, because you do so much aside from just VeggieTales. So I appreciate you making time to be on a little VeggieTale podcast,
No worries, man. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Peace.
All right. Take care.
You too.
Next up, in November of 2022, I did a quick interview with Kira Buckland, and she had a lot of information to share, and every time we've talked, be it call or email, she's been wonderful to talk to. With all that being said, here is my interview with the wonderfully talented Kira Buckland from 2022. 3 years later, still a big fan of what she's doing.
This is Finnegan Rowe on the ultimate unofficial VeggieTales podcast, the #1 fan podcast for those who still like to talk to tomatoes, and I am here today with Kira Buckland, voice of Petunia Rhubarb and Laura Carrot since 2019. So that would be since the best Christmas gift. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing good, and I'm so happy to have you on here. Thank you so much for making the time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Okay, so what is your earliest memory of the VeggieTales franchise?
So, like many kids in the US, I remember it vaguely from when I was a kid, and they would play the episodes of the original show in my church sometimes. And, like extracurricular activities at church and stuff like that. They would often have, like, it was like, because I grew up in the 90s, so that would be in the era of VHS tapes, and they'd have like the VHS tapes playing. And, some people would have TV or CDs of the songs and things like that.
The albums were always so good. So what got you involved with VeggieTales specifically, and what was the process of getting hired for that?
So it was really interesting because I just got an email out of the blue, like I guess, maybe from my website or something like that. Just like an email saying, hey, we're working on an animated project. Because usually when you are first given details about something, they can't really say like specifics until you sign a non-disclosure agreement. So they just said, we have an animated show that we're interested in hearing you audition for. And so I think for the first auditions, I sent it from home. But then I think for callbacks, we had to go in person. And I remember the studio was pretty far away. So I was like, hope I get this part because I'm like driving an hour to go and do this callback or whatever. And they had us read for several different characters. I mean, I knew what it was at that point because I had already signed the NDA at that point and kind of figured it out, like, oh, this is for this or whatever. So at first I was like confused, like, oh, are they wanting voice matches for the original shows? Because in that case, you kind of have to go and like study the original actor and try to, practice and get your voice as close as possible. But they were like, no, it's okay to do your own spin on it. We'll just give you some direction and things like that. So I went and auditioned, and usually the process, it's all over the place with when you're auditioning and doing callbacks for a project, because sometimes you'll find out even like the next day, like, okay, you booked it or whatever. And then other times it can take weeks because sometimes it has to go through several layers of approval and all that. So and most actors I know, our general default is if we don't hear back, we just kind of assume like, okay, I didn't book this thing. That's all right. I'll move on. It was cool to try out for it or whatever. So I think it might have been like a couple weeks that passed, or I don't know exactly because it was a while ago. But anyway, I just like kind of assumed I didn't book it, move on. And then I got another email saying, hey, like we're interested in casting you for these characters. And thankfully for the actual recordings, we got to go to a studio that was closer.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you guys were in the booth with Phil and Mike and Stephanie?
Oh, no. I think Phil and Mike don't even live in LA, to my knowledge. I'm not sure where they're based, but I feel like they're somewhere else. So they would do all their stuff like completely separately, and I would just go in to do my session. Sometimes I'd see Stephanie or one of the other actors if they were in right before or right after me, because then it's like, oh, like they're here to do their stuff or whatever.
Yeah, I got you. So the VeggieTales show was the first project. That was 26 episodes. How long did that take to record?
I can't remember exactly, because I think we probably started in like 2018 if the show came out 2019, and then we went through 2020, I believe, because I remember that when the pandemic first happened, I did a few episodes from home. Not like a ton, but I just remember to finish up some things. We did it from home. Might have gone through to early 2021. I just like can't remember the exact timeline because I work on so many projects.
Yeah, I got you. And they called you back for the podcast. Was that like immediately after the VeggieTales show, or was there some time in between?
There was some time in between from what I remember.
That's cool. I guess, they kind of timed that since the VeggieTales show stopped releasing episodes. I think it was April this year, and the podcast started in May, so they kind of didn't want a big gap in between.
Yeah, I think I was like first asked about it when I remember I was back home visiting my parents, and then we ended up getting things going for that. And for the podcast, I recorded that from home because it was like a different, I don't know how, it was like a different thing than the series.
So, what other acting experience do you have pre or post VeggieTales? I've looked into your portfolios before, but just for those listening who don't know.
Yeah, so I've been acting since 2004, and then specifically doing this as a career since about 2012.
Nice.
I've worked on a ton of projects. I mostly do character work, so I do like a lot of animation, dubbing, video games, that kind of stuff. VeggieTales was a little unique because I don't get to do a lot of original animation. And by that, I mean, I work on like a lot of Japanese cartoons where the visuals are already done and we have to match exactly what's on the screen. Whereas with VeggieTales, we're recording the voices first. So I kind of get to play with like the timing and pacing of lines and stuff, which is a luxury that you don't have when you're matching sync, you know?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. So you kind of, I'm guessing they do the recording before the storyboards, right? And then make storyboards and then the show.
Yeah, I mean, I just know that we would record, and most of the time there wouldn't be a visual reference already there. I don't know if they had that internally or whatever, but, you know, on the actor side, the visuals hadn't been done yet. And then occasionally what you'll have are called like ADR pickups, where they're like, oh, we have this scene mostly animated, and your character needs to do this big gasp here because that's what the animators put in, but it wasn't, you know, recorded in the original session or whatever. So in that case, then they'll just have you do that to picture like you would a dub.
That's actually really interesting. I didn't realize, like, once they get to the animation process, that the animators would add stuff in like that, you know, but that does give a little bit of wiggle room to add some more creative stuff.
I think it just kind of depends how, you know, sometimes things will end up looking a certain way. It's like, oh, we need this extra thing. It happens with dialogue too. Sometimes maybe something's getting done. The writers are like, oh, we want to add another line here, or something might get cut or whatever.
Yeah, that makes sense. And did they pitch shift your characters, or did they kind of leave it the same?
Yeah, everything was pitched.
Alrighty, because I'm definitely hearing a lot of Petunia.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing
so like
Laura.
the normal way that I do the voices is like, Petunia is kind of like this. So she's a lot deeper and more mature sounding and kind of motherly energy.
And then Laura's up here. But then when you hear it in the show, it's like, it's even higher.
Oh wow, that's really good. Like I was expecting that to be like super pitch shifted. You know, I always thought you were just doing the Petunia voice and they were just like shifting it up, but you're hitting that tone just raw recording.
We still do the character voices. I think it's just pitched up a little because that was what was traditionally done with the show, you know, to give it kind of the silly sound.
Yeah, I got you. Did you do Junior's voice as well on the podcast?
No.
No, okay.
I just did Petunia and Laura.
So, how often do people approach you about VeggieTales? Because I know you're relatively new to the franchise. I guess 2018, so that would be like 4 years of recording. But the characters you picked up are really big characters in the series, and people definitely know your name in the fandom.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, like not super often because I go to a lot of Comic-Con type of things, but usually people are like, they come up to me about specific shows that I worked on that a lot of the people in that fandom or that kind of base of like the people who attend a lot of Comic-Cons would know. So maybe once a year, somebody will be like, oh yeah, you're also in VeggieTales, weren't you? And that always surprises me because that's not one of the first go-tos that people usually think of when they think of my work, I guess.
That's cool. I guess it's a little more niche, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the fandom's huge, and you do hear a lot about you in the fandom.
Oh, that's crazy.
Because when I first watched The Best Christmas Gift, this was 2019 when it came out, I was super psyched for VeggieTales coming back. I've been a lifelong fan. And when I first listened to it, I thought it was the original voice actors of Petunia. You got it so like perfectly nailed.
Oh wow, which was funny because I kind of just did my own thing for it. Like I wasn't even necessarily trying to voice match.
Well, that's the thing. When I first heard it, I thought it was the original person. Then the more I listened to it, I could see like the uniqueness to it, which made it even more special. And the singing as well, you're able to match that really well.
I did my best.
So, did you get a chance to meet any of the other actors? You said you were in the booth every now and then with Sean, and I'm guessing Zija, is that how you say it?
Yeah, well, it's funny because I didn't meet any of them working on this show specifically. I knew them from other projects that we worked on because a lot of the actors who work on things like dubbing and video games, the community is a big community in a sense, but it's also small enough that a lot of us end up getting to know each other just in social circles or because we do events together or things like that. So it's funny because me and Sean and Stephanie are now like in this other big game together and stuff like that. But, usually because we all record our stuff individually, if you happen to see another actor, it's just because like they're in before or after you or something like that. But people end up meeting and getting to know each other socially most of the time. Oh, Genshin Impact.
Genshin Impact, got you. I want to look into that. Of
Yeah,
course, I'm
it's a time sink and a money sink. Beware, but
Well, I'll
Sean
probably
and
get hooked on
Stephanie
it.
play some of the earlier characters, and I'm one of the later ones that just came out this year.
I got you. I got you. You know, I'm probably just going to hear VeggieTales voices the whole time. So, the process of recording, you go to the studio, you record in the booth. How does that differ from when you record from home?
It's a pretty similar process aside from the location. Either way, we have a director on the line. Most of the times we would have a music director for part of the session as well, because most of the sessions involve singing. So for the songs, I would get them maybe the day before. So I would really have to like study them, right? Because I'd get the melody and the sheet music and like a demo, like a guide track the day before, usually sometimes 2 days before if I was lucky, and then I would just kind of have to listen to it, kind of practice on my own. And I don't know how other actors did it, but for me, because I'm not a super strong singer naturally, I wish I was. The way that I would do it was I would first just focus on matching the melody. I wouldn't worry about doing a character voice, any of that. I would just kind of practice it, just singing it without like putting on a voice or anything so that I could get the notes right. And then when I had that down and felt comfortable in that, then I could go into the character voices.
Super cool. So there's definitely a process behind it. How many lines would you say you have to record before you find like the perfect pitch? Like, do they make you do it over and over and then pick from the best, or do you just do it once?
Usually it has less to do with pitch and more about just getting the intent of the line that the director's looking for. So, typically I think we'd start with 3 takes, just give like 3 variations of a line, and then they either pick one or maybe the director will make a note saying like, okay, well, this, but you can be a little bit more snarky with Bob and Larry in this line, or be a little more caring, or, you know, whatever. It's all just kind of about making sure that when everything is put together in the scene, the intent will flow.
That makes sense. And I'm guessing when they do the storyboards, they send those to you so you can look it over, or do they? Is the next thing you see, like after you do the voices, the next thing you see the finished project, or do you see stuff in between?
I haven't seen any of that. Like, if I get to see any finished projects, it's because I look it up on YouTube later to see, like, oh, what did they do for this song or whatever. But usually it's just seeing the scripts. So a lot of it, and this is where it was a little bit challenging for me as an actor, and something that I'm trying to work on is because I was so used to dubbing things that were done in other languages, I would kind of like use it as a crutch in a sense. Like I would hear the original actor in the original language and kind of be like, okay, I'm going to match that, but in English. And then I'd see what was going on in the visual because we had to match it exactly. But for VeggieTales, because I'm just seeing a script, I have to use my imagination a lot. I have to imagine what the scene might look like. You know, obviously it could look totally different, but just to give yourself a base for understanding where your character is, who they're talking to, all the like acting class 101 stuff that you learn early on. So it's like when you don't have that visual reference, you do have more creativity and freedom in a sense, but you also have to use your mind to fill in those gaps.
I feel like it'd be more enjoyable that way. Just getting the script and kind of getting to fill in the gaps, like you said.
Yeah, I do like to get to play with it and not to be beholden to specific timing or whatever. But, you know, on the flip side, it's like, ooh, I'm used to having a visual reference. So it can,
That's true.
it can be hard to get used to. You know, we see the context of the other lines around ours. So if I can see like, okay, I'm responding to Bob here who's saying this, then it's kind of, you know, they say acting is reacting. So you just sort of like imagine, okay, Bob's going to say this, and then you react or whatever.
I got you. Because I know before when they would do cartoons, like you always see the behind the scenes of like SpongeBob or early VeggieTales, and it's like they just cram all the actors into a booth. So it's definitely convenient nowadays. They don't have to do that. They can kind of, you know, call in virtually and do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel like that would make it harder, just in the sense of trying to hit the right connotations. Like when I talked to Henry Haggard, he said like he was in booth with Mike Naraki doing the recording, but for the other characters, he just kind of had to guess how they were going to say it. And they had to guess how he was going to say things, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, that's the benefit, too, of having a voice director is that they can kind of, a lot of times they're directing all the cast, so they have kind of an overarching idea of what the scene's going to sound like. And, you know, if one of the other characters is yelling, for example, and they know, okay, call this out a little bit more because you're going to be matching, like, Larry Boy yelling or whatever.
I saw some storyboards on YouTube where they have like stand-in voice actors. Do you all do that a lot? Where you have someone stand in just to match the connotations or not?
It depends. I think that's more something that the animators would use, I imagine, because I would assume, I don't know, this is just me guessing, that a lot of times when they work on shows like this, the animation and storyboarding stuff is already being done simultaneously. Like, you're not going to wait for the voices because it takes it's a lot of work to animate a whole episode. So I would assume that things like the storyboarding and this and that are already in progress, and usually they will have just, the animators or whoever just do like a temp track for timing purposes. So if we ever hear something like that, which I don't think I did on this show, or very rarely if ever, but if I'm on a show where we do hear scratch track for anything, which is what it's called, it's usually because it's like, okay, here's the general timing that you need to match. It's not as strict as when we're dubbing, but just kind of like, okay, this gives the animators like beats to work off of before the final voices are in.
That really does make me appreciate it even more. Like I knew it was a big process, but they're clearly very layered. Lots of steps to get one episode out there. This has been Finnegan Rowe on the ultimate unofficial VeggieTales podcast with Kira Buckland, voice of Petunia Rhubarb, and Laura Carrot. Anything you want to say before we head out?
I will say I highly recommend everyone check out my favorite song from the series that I got to work on, and I can't even remember the name of it, which is driving me crazy, but it starts with like, when you're an astronaut up in space, and it talks about like getting eaten by the alien queen. Like, that was just such a fun song, and I love the theme and the concept, so that's the one that I recommend everybody check out if you're like, I want to listen to a VeggieTales song randomly and I don't know which one.
With a broken interplanetary projector fax machine, can you get back to your own place before you're caught and probably eaten by the alien queen?
Ew.
That was my interview with the wonderful Kira Buckland. Now, in December of 2022, I got the chance to talk to voice actor and cat fosterer Stephanie Southerland of VeggieTales and Genshin Impact fame.
Yes, yay! I'm happy to be here. Thanks so much for bringing me on.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for joining. It's always really exciting to talk to people who've had official involvement in VeggieTales.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here, and yeah, I'm so grateful I get to be a part of the VeggieTales universe. It's really been such an honor and a joy.
And it's an expansive universe too. Hopefully it'll just keep expanding,
Indeed. Fingers crossed.
We'll cross our fingers for them.
Yes, right. That's a good point. That's a very good point. We'll do that for them since
there we go.
They don't have arms.
So we're gonna get into how you got into voice acting, your first voice acting experiences. Obviously, it's a VeggieTales podcast. We'll dive heavily into VeggieTales, but I want to hear about your work on Genshin Impact and anything else you've been involved with over the years. I'm very interested to hear.
Yeah, of course.
So we'll get into all of that after the theme song. So how did you get into voice acting?
All right, well, let's see here. I actually got my Bachelor of Fine Arts. I don't know why I said that all spelled out, but the BFA in music, dance, theater. It was definitely my intention to go to Broadway and do that thing. And my senior year at university, I was in a show, and I was working on senior showcase and getting ready to go to LA and New York for essentially to do the showcase and get agents. And I just became really burnt out. I've learned about myself that I'm a homebody to the max. I love my nights and weekends. And so I was like, how can I still perform and use these skills that I've worked really, really hard to cultivate, and also still have my homebody time, my time to relax at the end of a day. And I found voiceover, and I had known it was a career. I mean, early on, since I think it was like Mrs. Doubtfire that enlightened my world about
Such a good movie.
Such a great film, right? Oh gosh,
mhm.
Robin Williams. Oh, what an amazing person and actor he
Absolute
was.
legend.
A total legend. But yeah, I don't know what year that came out, 95 or something. I'm probably way off. But 90s it came out, and so I knew voice acting was a job, but I never thought it was something like attainable, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's see. So yeah, I got my BFA and then was burnt out. And then, I started looking into being able to still use my skills that I had cultivated, and was like, oh, voiceover. That's more or less a 9 to 5-ish kind of job, I'd still be able to play these characters. I'd be able to sing, and wouldn't really be dancing as much, but definitely acting and singing. And the big pull for me was that I could play anyone and anything. Whereas with theater, it was, there was a certain type that I would be playing. And I could play a vegetable in musical theater if I wanted to. I mean, not
There you
musical
go.
theater, a vegetable in voiceover. So anyway, I started taking classes and started learning, how to use the mic, learning mic technique, and one thing led to another, and I found myself working at a voiceover casting house, doing commercials. I was there for about, I want to say 4 years. I probably should look at the timeline a little more specifically. But I think it was about 4 years. And then I was like, you know what? It's time I start working to get myself jobs instead of casting other people. And yeah, one thing led to another. And now I'm working full time as a voice actor, and I love it. I'm really, really grateful to get to be where I'm at.
It's wonderful. And when I think of voice acting, I never really think of like advertisements, but that's a big part of voice acting,
For
I
sure,
just
for
never
sure.
think about that.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because all along I was like, I want to do animation. I've always loved cartoons, and that was my intention. I was like, I want to do animation, maybe video games, who knows? I don't want to worry about commercial. And then I learned that really, in order to get an agent, you need a commercial demo. You need to be able to do advertising work. But yeah, like in order to get an agent, you have to know how to do commercial work because that's where the money is. And it's really how you cut your teeth and get into the world of voiceovers. So it's a bigger part of the process than I think I had any idea about. And I remember saying to one of my first teachers, we were learning commercial stuff, and she was like, what do you really want out of your career? And I was like, animation. She was like, yeah, everyone wants that. And really it was not like the harsh truth, but in a way it is, you have to be able to be a multi-hyphenate and do a lot.
You gotta be flexible, right?
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, and once I had the commercial stuff down, and had a good demo and was booking commercial work, then that's what helped me get my agent and has ultimately what brought me success in the animation and video game world as well.
There you go. You already had like a portfolio out there.
Exactly. And yeah, that portfolio is what's going to help agents notice people too, because essentially it's like, okay, they are working, they've cut their teeth, they know what they're doing, and so it makes you more trustworthy to them. And maybe trustworthy isn't the right word I'm looking for. It's more of an asset for them to have on their roster.
Yeah, I was gonna say like reliable, like they know you can do it.
Exactly. Yeah, so that has been it. And as far as like my first acting experience, I mean, if we go way back, I remember in elementary school doing I don't even remember what it was, but it was like a production of jungle animals.
Like a Jungle Book type of thing.
Kind of, yeah. And like these little animals like had little songs that they did, but like I don't even remember that stuff. But I do remember I was super into American Girl dolls, and in third grade, Mrs. Lofton's class in third grade, I got these like books that were essentially play scripts of the American Girl dolls, and I was obsessed with Kirsten. I was going to say Kirsten. And I got this book, and I was like, we're going to put on a play. And so I have some pictures from third grade of me and a couple of friends from back then, like sitting around during recess. We stayed inside and we were like planning on doing this big production. And I remember us building sets out of cardboard, and that didn't work out too well, but we did our best. And we worked on that for so long, and then it obviously fizzled because we're third graders, and who has
That's how
the
it goes,
attention
you
span
know?
for that? But and then I really got into dance and danced competitively for years, and then in high school I was like, I feel like there was kind of like this real hierarchy in a way. Allergies here in LA have been a real treat lately. I feel like this year it's been worse for me.
Oh, allergies are the worst. I've got a cat slightly allergic to him, but he's like so fluffy. I can't stop holding him.
Oh my gosh, it's one of those. It's the hard thing about cats is they're so cute and also have so much dander. We love it. We love them. They're the
We do.
best. It's true. I have 2 cats of my own, and then we foster as well, and so we always have a constant rotation of new little kittens coming and going.
Oh, is it
But
hard to tell him bye?
it is. I cry every time.
Oh, I feel that. I feel
I
that.
cry every time, but it's nice because they let us essentially select the families that they get to go to, and so we're able to see like, okay, this is going to be the best fit for these little babies, and a lot of times they'll send updates like, here's what this little kitten looks like now, and here's a picture of them with their sibling, their cat sibling or dog sibling or whatever, and so the updates, it makes it so much easier. But then we get another foster, and it's like we start it over again, and then it gets sad and then happy, and it's
And
a cycle.
they really do have personality too. Like
Oh my gosh.
you can kind of gauge their personality when you have them.
Oh my gosh, 100%. We have one right now. She's so cute. Her name is Lacey, but we just call her Merp because her meows are literally her going Merp, Merp.
I love it.
And she's so cute. And we got her, she's older. She's older, and she was in the charm school, they call it, where they just need a little more socialization to know that like humans are good. Humans mean food.
It's true. That is true.
Yeah, and like she's really come into her own in the last couple weeks, and it's just so fun to see her like little spunky personality. And she is a kitten who she marches to the beat of her own drum. She has such a quirkiness about her, and she was so scared when we got her. So it's so gratifying to see her like having come into her own and seeing that personality shine. And she gets adopted officially next Friday. Yeah, so a week from tomorrow.
Wow.
We're so excited. She's going to have 2 cat brothers, and she'll be really loved. So anyway.
You can really develop characters off of that too. Like when you have pets, you can just kind of develop cartoon characters off of that.
Oh my gosh.
I always do anyway.
Totally. My cats, my foster fails, Gidget and Phoebe, they definitely have their own personalities, and there have been auditions that have come through where I'm like, oh, this character is totally Phoebe. And like we do voices for our cats too, of course. And Phoebe's got this kind of like raspiness about her, and a little bit of like I don't know what's the phrase I'm looking for, like razzmatazz. Like she's just so weird, and I've pulled that for certain auditions where like Gidget's really like meek and really sweet and just wants to snuggle, and so it's fun to see the personalities and like what comes from these fun little creatures that we're so lucky to have in our lives.
We are. That's wonderful.
Yeah. That's my cat tangent for the day. I think on Twitter I'm starting to be known as the voice actor who fosters cats. Like
There you go. That's not a bad title.
yeah, I'd say it's pretty good. My life's pretty happy.
That's awesome.
Being able to do voiceover and have lots of cats in my life.
There you go.
Oh my gosh. But so back to my first acting experience. I started dancing competitively, and then in high school there was like this draw to be a part of like the theater program and the choir program, and so I started auditioning for the high school musicals, and not the high school musical, but the musicals at our high school, and really got back into it then. And yeah, did some really, really fun shows. I think my favorite high school production I was a part of was Lucky Stiff. And it's basically, it was made into a movie. Oh, I guess it's probably been about 10 years. But yeah, it's basically about this really like good, humble kind of guy. And his uncle dies and has a lot of money, and I'm probably butchering the whole plot, but it was just like this like gambling heist, weird, quirky. I don't know. I can't explain it very well, but it's delightful. So yeah, Lucky Stiff was one of my favorites, and then of course did it all through college when I got my BFA, and yeah, I love acting.
So you kind of knew what you wanted to do from the beginning, right? You're kind of doing this your whole life.
Yeah, I've just always loved performing and being on stage. And I mean, for so long, I was like, I'm a dancer. I'm going to be a dancer. And then once I added back in the acting and singing component, it was like, okay, I want to be on stage, or I want to be in front of people. And there is a bit of like escapism involved, or I can just, whatever troubles I'm having in my daily life, I get to put that aside while I dive into a certain character. And even being in an ensemble, it's like diving into a different world and living in that for the length of the show. And it's just, I just love it. It gives me life for sure.
That's one thing to me that's real appealing about voice acting. Is like I can, I don't have a problem getting up and talking in front of people, but it's not my favorite. Like if I can avoid it, I will.
Yeah.
I'll do it if I
Yeah.
have to, but if I can avoid it, and so being behind the microphone and just going crazy, kind of becoming the character just feels fun.
Uh-huh.
That's definitely something I want to go into,
Oh, for sure, for sure. And oh gosh, like I remember speaking in church or singing in church, and I would just be so scared. And I think part of it is that like there was, I always was like a little unsure of myself, and I wanted people like me. I'm such a people pleaser to my core, and really wanted people to like me. And I was like, oh, but what if I say or do the wrong thing, or not the wrong thing, but just like something weird or whatever. And it was just easier to be a different character than it was to be myself. And I think as I've grown up and whatnot, I am more able to be myself than I used to be. But there really is something about getting to dive into a life of someone else and think of their background, what made them the way that they are, and what motivates them, and what are the relationships to the people around them. I just love it. It's so fun for me, and I'm so grateful I get to do it every day.
Well, you've definitely pleased the VeggieTales fandom. I like people review stuff. They review stuff very, very critically. I have never heard anyone say Madame Blueberry's new voice doesn't sound like. I've never heard anyone. Everyone's like amazed by how close it is to the
my
original.
gosh. Oh, that's such a compliment. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I grew up. I mean, I didn't grow up watching VeggieTales. It came out, I think I was probably 10. I was probably 10 or so when VeggieTales came out, and my little brother would watch them. Of course, we had them on VHS, and I was always like, yeah, I'm too cool for VeggieTales, but like I would be watching them too and be like, I'm so blue, all the whole song and Stuff Mart and all of that, and silly songs with Larry or wait, now I'm forgetting. Oh no, I'm butchering
No, it's Larry. Yeah, it's silly songs.
Yeah, it's
with
Larry, right? And then
Oh, yeah.
and then
Oh, yeah.
Was it Love Songs with Mr. Lunt?
Yeah, Mr. Lunt slipped in every now and then to do something.
Yeah.
The cheeseburger song.
Yes, the cheeseburger song. And side note, my high school choir teacher, his name was Mr. Lunt, and
His name was Mr. Lunt?
Uh-huh. And I
Oh
thought
my
that was
gosh.
hilarious.
That is hilarious. My gosh. I joined the choir just so my teacher could be named Mr. Lunt.
Right. And singing teacher too. Whoa. But yeah, oh my gosh, I would watch these shows on VHS, and it was so cool. Of course, I wasn't into them, but I really was. I really loved them, and yeah, and so I really think that like I had no idea that they were going to come out with another after In the House ended. I didn't know they were going to be coming out with another series with a VeggieTales show, and so when I guess I'm kind of going into your next question.
Yeah. How'd you get involved with VeggieTales?
Yeah. So how did I get involved with VeggieTales? I got someone had reached out to me on I think they found my email address on LinkedIn of all places, and they had seen listened to my demos, and they said, would you like to audition for this It's a reboot of a religious animated series, and I was like, what could it be? I mean, I grew up in Utah, so I was like, living scriptures, like what could it be? I have no idea.
Bible man.
Yeah, I just couldn't even think, and my husband was like, what if it's VeggieTales? And I was like, I doubt it. And I just didn't even think about it. And I remember getting the audition for it, and it was just a couple lines. There were a couple characters and a couple lines and a little description on each character. And for Madame Blueberry, it was like, oh, actually, let me see if I can find it here. Oh yeah. So they wanted, it said a middle-aged plump woman with with a French fluent voice of the aristocracy, and I was like, oh, okay. So I'll make her French and put her in this place, and just playing around with it. And I didn't even think about Madame Blueberry.
That's a perfect description for it too.
Yeah, right. It's perfect. And of course, in my brain, I was like, I don't know what this could be for. A French woman. What in the world? But of course, it was Madame Blueberry. And yeah, so they sent me a couple lines to record for a couple characters. I believe Petunia was in there. I think Laura Carrot might have been one of them. I can't remember. I know Callie was not in that audition that they had sent out. And so I sent them a couple lines from the characters that they did have me read for, and they responded and said, we like what you did. Would you like to come in for a callback? And I was like, yeah. And that was when I got to the studio down in Orange County, and they handed me the sides, and it was VeggieTales, and I was like, oh my goodness.
That's exciting.
And, yeah, I was so excited because I had such a love for the series from when I was a young Stephanie. And of course there was more a fleshed out description of Madame Blueberry and Laura and Petunia and all those roles. And so yeah, I went in. They had me sing, I think it was like Mary Had a Little Lamb with a French opera accent. And so it was like, Mary had a little lamb. And thankfully my musical theater background came in handy for that. And then, gosh, I can't remember how it came up. I believe one of them said like, hey, don't you do little boy voices too? And I was like, oh yeah, sure. I'll just read some of these lines in my little boy voice. And I can't remember what it was, but it was just like I'm having a good time. And they were like, actually, it's kind of like a plucky, spunky little girl. And I was like, oh, well, cool. That sounds great. And and then they reached out with a casting offer for Madame Blueberry and Cauliflower. And I just feel incredibly lucky that the stars aligned and it worked out. And I get to play two very, very different characters. And it's just such a joy. It's such a highlight for me.
That's awesome. And did you end up doing Junior's voice for the podcast too? Because that sounded a lot like Junior.
No, I didn't for the podcast. I can't remember who did Junior's voice for the podcast, but nope, it wasn't me. I had read on or like auditioned for it, but I just stuck with my usual characters.
See, it's interesting. It's interesting. They haven't announced the voice actors for the podcast. I mean, we know it's you, and we know it's Kira because we recognize it from the VeggieTales show. But they haven't announced who Bob, Larry, and I think it's all because the fans, including me, I'll admit, have a hard time adjusting to 30 years of Phil and Mike, and then recasting. It's sudden, so they don't want people attacking the voice actor, which I think they're doing a great job. It's not exactly the same, but like it's good. You can tell it's Bob and Larry. They're doing a great job.
Yes, for sure. Well, and yeah, it makes sense. I think when there is ever a changing of the guard for whatever reason, it's going to be hard for the fans because, we identify so much with the actors' performances. And so there is that fine line of juggling how to handle those sorts of things and trying to be respectful of those who are no longer voicing the characters, and specifically with Mike and Phil having, been these characters for so long.
Oh, for
I think
sure.
it's so important to handle it diplomatically. And I feel really grateful that I got to work with them on the VeggieTales show for sure.
Like
Yeah.
I think they really do need to get some recognition. They're carrying on characters, and I think that needs to be noted.
Yes, yes, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I think that, it's well, I think I'm just repeating myself. It's that tricky balance, and I think that everyone can bring something different to the characters, and I think yeah, it would be great. I wish I even knew who does these voices, but they do a great job in the podcast for sure.
They do.
And I think as long as the intention, and we give credit for this creation that we get to be a part of, this world we get to be a part of, and get to enjoy. I think it's just being grateful and respectful of these worlds that we get to. I guess I'm just talking in circles, that we
No, I
get
know
to
what
be
you're
a part
saying.
of.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's definitely an
Yeah.
honor for sure. It's exciting.
Yeah, and it's an incredible honor, and yeah, I feel grateful every
It's
day that
funny.
I get to be a part of it.
You said you're a big fan of Tress McNeil, right?
Oh, I'm a huge fan of Tress McNeil. She is, she's amazing.
Isn't it
She's
funny? You're kind of
she's
carrying
so
on
good.
characters that she used
Oh
to
my
voice.
gosh. Well, I feel so, yeah. I mean, it's tough shoes to fill for sure, just
Well, you're
because
doing it
she's
though.
iconic. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, I grew up watching Animaniacs and Tiny Toons, and I mean, she's done everything and still is in so much. And so to get to carry on some of the characters that she has been a part of is just incredibly humbling, and it makes me want to be better so I can fill fill these shoes that I've stepped into. But yeah, she's incredible.
She absolutely is. Yeah, maybe I can get her on here sometime too.
Oh my gosh,
But
yes.
I feel like you're filling the shoes like perfectly. Like
Thank
it's
you.
astounding. I would honestly compare you guys like head and head, both amazing.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. That is the best compliment I've ever received. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I hate to admit, I really haven't kept up with Genshin. I'm not a big video game person because I feel like if I
Sure.
started playing video games, I'd like play them too much. So
Uh-huh.
I never really started. But I have a friend who is a huge fan of Genshin. And he was asking, he was like, "How does Stephanie Southerland go from, I think it's Jean, right, in Genshin
Uh-huh.
Impact, Jean to Madame
Yeah.
Blueberry? This is such a different range."
Totally. Oh, totally. Well, first, I have to say, I am the same way. Like, I started playing Genshin Impact when it first came out, and I haven't played it in probably, at least a year because, like, it's like one of those hyper focus things. Like, it's all I want to do. It's all I can think about, and it's a big world to get to know. So I get you on that for sure. I think when it comes to approaching these two very different characters, gosh, I think having the acting background is is paramount. Like, it's so important because obviously these characters come from different worlds and have different wants and needs, and so knowing those things, being able to approach these characters from that space is very, very helpful. And then I think knowing how to manipulate my instrument, my voice, to fit these characters is also a pretty important thing. Knowing how to manipulate my vocal cords and also keeping them healthy and all of that. But they're just in such different worlds. Like, VeggieTales is just this heightened, larger than life world, and Genshin Impact is pretty grounded. I mean, there's the fantasy elements in it, but the character Jean, she's very serious and methodical and a bit hard on herself, and she really wants to do what's best, and is someone who really considers every angle. And so I brought that side of myself to Jean, and so she's just grounded. She's she speaks a bit quiet and a little bit deeper because she's a lot of times in thought and feels this weight of responsibility. Whereas with VeggieTales, Madame Blueberry, life is a stage, and she's just so much bigger, and and then Cauliflower's like everything is cool and awesome and Larry, and she just is so excited about everything, and I think it's just understanding the characters' motivations and what makes them tick. Approaching it from that way is really how I've been able to voice such different characters.
I can't tell you how big I'm smiling right now. Just hearing you do those voices is amazing.
Oh, thank you. I wish I could remember some of the big lines. I mean, with Madame Blueberry, it's just I always just say Madame Blueberry. I just say her voice or say her name, but and then Callie's just like, I'm just having a good time, like just really plucky. So yeah, it's just so fun, and yeah, it's cool. I gotta say, like, that is one thing I really love about voiceover is that I'm able to play a head of cauliflower and a blueberry and also a human creature, a human who has a lot of responsibility. And then in other projects like playing oh gosh, what can I even talk about that's not under NDA? That's the other thing is I'm like, what can I even say? I also have to always pull up my IMDb page because I'm like, every day is different. I don't remember all the projects I've worked on, except for some of these more established ones, these bit larger fan base projects. But yeah, like every character has such a different history, a different background. Oh gosh, like yeah, one of my recent projects that just came out a couple weeks ago. I'm in God of War, this huge video game, and in this I play this tree creature called a Nokken, or Nokken. I've heard it said both ways, but it's basically this scrawny little like twiggy weird creature where I'm just making sounds. Like I don't know about you, but I'm not really a tree creature in real life. But I get to play these very different characters, and so to be able to understand, I really feel like it's what the characters want in life and what they need and what their relationships are to the people and other people in the world, other people or other creatures in the world. It really just, it's so fun to get to dive in.
Well, that's what's so fun about voice acting. You get to become the character, like while you're voicing them, you really are the character.
Yeah, for sure. And before, especially with VeggieTale sessions, I would say animation sessions in general, they send to you the full script ahead of time so you can read through the whole thing and understand why they are saying and doing the things that they're doing, and what's happening in each scene, and you really got to be able to tap into those emotions. And,
for sure.
Sometimes in these VeggieTales thing. I mean, I'm thinking specifically, gosh, what's the episode called? It's where Madame Blueberry gets the hiccups.
Oh, The Tale of True Courage, yeah. Callie's singing on stage.
That's the one, yes. And she, Madame Blueberry's frantic because her life is this stage, and Callie's just like, la la, like singing, and she's a little bit shy, and she doesn't know if she can do it, and she's nervous. Like it's really understanding where they're coming from, and it's just so fun to be able to explore these worlds.
It's one of my favorite episodes of the current series, or I don't know if they're making a second season yet, but of the newest ones,
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Really fun episode.
Mine too. Oh, it's so fun. And all the music is so great too. It's just delightful.
Yeah, the song Callie sings in the end.
Isn't it great?
It's so good.
I can be brave. It's
Love
so
it.
fun.
But who will sing it? I will.
And for VeggieTales, that was a huge project. You had Gosh, the VeggieTales show alone, Madame Blueberry was like a big character in every single episode, you know? So that's 26
Yeah.
episodes of quite a few lines. Callie was a big character in a good portion of the episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the podcast, of course, I'm not sure if they're launching any more with that, but just of what's out, Madame Blueberry is a main character in every single one of them, you know?
Yeah, and she's one of those legacy characters in the VeggieTales world, and so like I mentioned before, it's large shoes to fill, and I just want to bring that authenticity and that spirit of Madame Blueberry through my performance.
I love that one episode of the podcast where Madame Blueberry's like teaching Bob and Larry, like, see that some school, like trying to teach some good manners, right? Yeah, I like that one. She's trying to, like, not slurp the soup or whatever.
Right.
Sip! How is that physically possible?
We're very good slurpers.
You are not supposed to slurp!
Right. She usually tries to stay so measured, but that one she just, slurping's one of those sounds that can really irritate people.
For sure. Especially an upper class French opera singer like Madame Blueberry,
of course.
She doesn't have time for that.
We must have manners and be kind to assail people's ears.
Exactly.
Oh, it's so fun.
So what makes for like a really solid recording session? Like, how many takes does it take to get one line for a show?
That is a really, really good question. Gosh, I feel like it depends on each session. Let's see. I would say, it really depends. With some sessions, oops, sorry, as I knocked something over, there was probably a big bump sound.
No, you're good.
Okay, good. It really depends on the session. Some sessions where, like, if it's an ensemble session, where it's not just me in the booth or connected over the internet, it's me and other characters, we will typically read through the whole script as a cast, and so that way we're able to play off of each other and respond to each other live as we're moving through the story. And I love an ensemble session. So we'll read through the whole script. And then if needed, we'll go back and pick up certain lines if we need to, if the director has a redirect, or we didn't read the line what they had how they had imagined, or with the right intention. We'll go back and do pickups.
I know it's different for everyone because I had the honor of talking to Kira Buckland and Sean Chiplock both on the podcast previously.
Those two, I love them.
They're amazing for sure.
They are.
And they said they did like I think Sean said he did some in booth stuff. Mostly they were doing like virtual.
Mm-hmm.
So is that how you did it too, calling in virtually, or were you in the booth with other voice actors and actresses?
Gosh, I'm trying to remember exactly. I feel like early on, I was going in studio. I feel like for the majority, actually, I was in studio with Kira, and I'm trying to think. Do they have us? Actually, I don't know if we recorded in studio at the same time, but we were there at the sessions, and then we would trade off who was in the booth. But yeah, once the pandemic hit, we really went remote, and so gosh, I think there were a handful of episodes that I recorded from my home studio, and
the latter
grateful.
episodes, I guess.
Yeah, exactly, and I feel lucky that even through the pandemic, I was able to stay busy working, and we were able to still do these recordings for this awesome show. But yeah, early on it was all in studio, and yeah, it's just a different feeling when you're in studio. You're there with the director and with the production crew, and able to play off of live reactions, whereas online it's like talking into a mic and they're there but they're muted, and you're looking at a script instead of at people's faces on Zoom or whatever, and so there's definitely a different feeling, but to each session, but they're both fun, and it's still just diving into the character and getting to be a part of that. But yeah, gosh, like every session is different, and sometimes, like with video games, like I'm thinking of, usually we'll do like 2 takes of a line, and then move on, or 2 takes of a line and the director will say, give me one more of that line with this direction in mind. And so they give you, you give them like 3 takes total. But yeah, with VeggieTales, I feel like it was mostly going through the script and doing the line like an A, B, and C. So 3 times and with 3 different inflections and intentions. And then they pick the select. And so it's fun. I feel like a good recording session is all the recording sessions. It's just so fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It sounds like you really enjoy your job too. It's something I want to be doing.
Oh yeah, it's the best gig. If you want to be a performer, I highly recommend this world. And there's so much content being created right now that it's a good time. It's like the golden age of animation, and especially video games. So yeah, it's a great gig. One thing that I've really learned, because I used to be like, darn, I didn't book this thing. And especially in my earlier days, we're auditioning is the job. And so we record the auditions, send them off, and then forget about them. And if we hear back, amazing. That's a cherry on top to get to actually book something and to be able to work on something. But one thing I've learned is like the voice, the acting, the characters, what am I trying to say? The voiceover is really just a piece of the puzzle of this big picture, and they're just trying to find the piece that fits the best. And so it's nothing personal. It's really just who embodies the character and the vision that the creator had in mind. And so when those things line up, you know, your acting and your voice lines up with the creator's, the creator and the director, the whole team's vision. It's chef's kiss. It's the best.
It's
Such
a good
great
feeling.
It really is.
So do you have any tips for aspiring voice actors and actresses? Because we have a lot here in the fandom who are very, very interested in voice acting. So many VeggieTales impressionists.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, gosh, I always love to refer people to D. Bradley Baker's website.
Yes.
D. Bradley Baker. Have you heard of his website?
I haven't seen his website, but I'm thinking of SpongeBob. He was someone in SpongeBob. I know he was.
I can't remember. I mean, he's in everything here. While we're here, let me just pull up his IMDb. I mean, he is in everything, and he is incredible. I mean, talk about someone who works all the time. D is like, he's in everything. Like he was the voice of Appa in Avatar: The Last Airbender, and he was Perry the Platypus and Phineas and Ferb.
Oh, that's right. He's Bubble Bass. He's Bubble Bass and Kevin the Sea Cucumber.
Yes.
I knew I'd heard him from Phineas and Ferb too. That's such a good show.
Oh my gosh, such a great show. Yeah, he's in everything. He's incredible. And he has put together this website called iwanttobeavoiceactor.com. Highly, highly recommend it. It's so comprehensive. Like, in fact, I'm going to pull it up so I can just list some of the things on it.
Yeah, I'm going to link that in the description too.
Yes, definitely. I feel like whenever I get asked this question, I'm just like, go to Dee's website, because it's so incredibly comprehensive. And he just goes into detail from like basically starting on ground zero, like how to get going, really what to do. Oh yeah, here it is. Like starting from zero, a quick overview of how to start, a roadmap and signposts, afraid of acting, stuck at home, do this, framing your growth, the path towards instinctive mastery, and then FAQs, VO myths, and then let's see, there's another drop-down menu, learning to act. It's all about going into acting, and then how to go pro, examples of making an animation demo, your website, auditioning, agents, working from home. Like there's just so much. And so I highly, highly recommend it. Like you could spend a long time just reading through it, and he gives this info for free, and it's just incredibly, incredibly valuable. I feel like even now as a full-time voice actor, I can still learn so much from this website. And he's just incredibly generous with his info. And I will also say, like, everyone's experience is different. I know a lot of people who started in very different ways than I did. And my path was working in casting for a little while, well, doing musical theater first, and then working in casting, and eventually moving from that to doing more of my own work. And everyone's journey is different, and I guess the main thing is just putting in the work, knowing it's going to be a lot of work. It's hard work, and some days I'm like, am I crazy for choosing this career? But but if you feel called to do it, and you feel like you're in the right place and are doing what your heart has like guided you to do, then it's worth it. It's worth the long hours and the constant rejection and the bookings, like especially the bookings, like it's worth it all.
You're making so many people smile too, you know?
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's so that is one thing I just didn't even expect, because I guess like I always played in musical theater. I was always either the like comedic best friend, the comic relief. I'm definitely a comedic actor, and also doing ensemble roles too. And so I didn't expect getting to play roles that have such a huge impact on people's lives. And so to be able to meet people who really love and appreciate the work that I've been able to do, that I've been lucky enough to do, it's so incredibly humbling and gratifying. It's just such a wonderful feeling to know that people, it makes people happy and makes people smile. That's like just the best feeling. I think that also, like, when there's something that we all know so well, and then there's like a different interpretation of it, it's like, hey, wait a second. I mean, I feel like it was the same thing with oh gosh, now I can't think. Thundercats. Thundercats was the same way. I feel like even with Teen Titans Go, people were like, this is way too quirky, you know? So when it's not like something that we're totally used to, I think there's a bit of a like a hurdle to jump over. But you can always find enjoyment in things. It's just being able to like look beyond our expectations, you know?
Yeah, I think so too. And I think the Netflix series was honestly really fun. Like I said, just
Yeah.
different. It was different, but it was still really enjoyable, and it still had heart and soul. But the VeggieTales
Yes.
show really brought it back to like, you know, like the Netflix series was great, but the VeggieTales show brought it back to like what the fans really loved from the original
Yes.
stuff, you know? And so
Yes, the
to be a
core
part
of
of
it
that.
all.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh,
Exactly.
yeah. And to have the song, oh gosh, Kurt is such an incredible songwriter, and
Oh,
to
he's
be
amazing.
able to like sing these songs, and it had the heart of the original songs, and oh gosh, like it really did bring it back to what we know, or what we knew, what we all have loved for so long. And oh gosh, it's so cool to get to be a part of something so beloved.
It is. It's
Beloved,
awesome.
beloved, whatever the word is.
Both, right?
Both, I guess so, yeah.
Well, it's been an absolute honor talking to you. This has been an amazing episode.
Oh my gosh, well, thank you again for having me. This has been so fun, and I love the VeggieTales world, and it's just an incredible honor to get to be a part of it. So thank you for having me and letting me chat about my experience. This has been so fun to talk with you.
Absolutely. And I think I speak for the whole fandom when I say it's like it's an absolute honor to get, like I said, someone officially involved with the show on my like tiny little VeggieTales YouTube channel, you know?
Well, thank you.
Amazing.
Yeah, I hope that people find this find our chat valuable and insightful, and yeah, feel motivated to do what you love, and go for your dreams. That sounds so cheesy.
But it's true. It is true.
It's true. Yeah, exactly. Be like Callie, have some courage.
Yeah, exactly. It's become a
Right.
cliche, but like when you think about it, you know what you want to do, you gotta aim for that.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, I've heard the phrase like, love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life. And I don't know if that's true, because I still am like, oh, I just really want to sleep. I'm definitely like naps are my favorite hobby kind of person.
I feel that. I feel that.
So, right? Yeah. I mean, well, who doesn't love a nap? I mean, I guess there are people, my husband's one of them, but but like there are certainly days where I'm like, oh, this is work. But overall, the overall thing is like, you know what? I am happy with my life. And also like we don't have to like do anything like groundbreaking or huge to like enjoy our lives. I know like some like my brother, for example, like he works at a place where when he's off work, he's off work. He doesn't have to think about it. Whereas with voiceover, I'm like constantly checking my email. I try to set office hours, but things come up where I do have to work till 10, 11 p.m. at night sometimes. It's like as long as like you are serving, I think serving your intention and your goals, like being able, there is something to be said about having a job where you are, once you're off the clock, you are off the clock. There's something to be said about that, and there's something to be said about, you know, being willing to be in a job where you are constantly working, and as long as it's, you know, it's aligned with what your heart and your soul really want.
Well, you can love your job.
Rewarding.
You can love your job, but there's no rule that says you always have to love it. You know,
Yes,
there can be times.
exactly.
There can be times, and you're like, oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, yeah, totally. I mean, there have certainly been days where like we're constantly auditioning as voice actors, and there will be days where I'll get like 20 characters to read on, and they're all, of course, like due the next day. And it's like, oh, am I ever gonna do this? Like, I just want a break. And yet you can still find enjoyment in those hard times too, those moments where it's like, I don't know how I can be creative anymore. And yeah, but I will say, like, voiceover is just an incredibly gratifying world of the entertainment industry to get to be a part of.
I'm sure it feels great to sit back and look at the result.
Yes. Oh, for sure. It's really, really fun. And then, of course, getting to know the fandom is just beyond my wildest dreams. I just love seeing how the things that that I'm fortunate to be a part of really make people's lives happier, better.
Oh, for sure. And you get to be part of so many fandoms too, you know?
Yes.
Everything from
yes.
Genshin Impact to VeggieTales. It's a vast category.
Indeed, it really, really is. It's pretty wild, and yeah, it's humbling for sure. You don't realize how many people there are in the world until you like you see numbers on a screen, like on Twitter or whatever, and it's like, oh, that's fun, that's cool. And then you go to a convention and you see people who like want to hear you talk and do the voices and stuff. It's like, whoa, these are human people, not just a name on a screen. So yeah, humbling is an understatement. Like, it's just, it blows my mind to recognize the impact that certain projects have on people's lives.
Well, you're doing a wonderful job. Just keep doing what you're doing, yeah?
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I will. I'll keep on keeping on.
Absolutely. Hopefully, many more years of an opera singing Blueberry.
Indeed. Yes, Madame Blueberry is happy to come anytime. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. And I'm trying to think of like a funny thing to say, like in the characters' voices.
You want to wrap up the show as Madame Blueberry or Cauliflower?
Oh yeah. Let's see. Okay.
It's the ultimate unofficial VeggieTales podcast.
Yes, the ultimate unofficial VeggieTales podcast. Okay, let's see here. Thank you for listening to the ultimate unofficial VeggieTales podcast with me, Madame Blueberry.
And me, Cauliflower. And I just want to remind you that you can be brave.
Yes, because the world is a stage.
Okay, yep, that's good. All right, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
All right, that was my interview with Stephanie Southerland from 2022. That last part makes me smile every time. If only I'd interviewed her twice. Oh, wait, I did.
Perfect. That great automated voice letting me know the recording's working.
We love her. Recording in progress. I love it.
She's been a guest on every podcast so far.
Oh my gosh, she does. She's such a great job. So consistent in her work.
Oh, for sure. Except when I don't record, you know. Then...
Oh, right. Of course. But that's not on her.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, I can blame her.
Oh, yes, smart.
See, the little automated thing didn't record you. It wasn't my fault.
It wasn't my fault.
My computer crashed, right?
Right, yeah, exactly.
I definitely didn't just forget.
Right. Something just happened. I'm not sure what. It just didn't record. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for having me on. I'm excited to chat with you.
Well, I'm very grateful you made time for this.
Oh, thank you. I'm grateful you reached out.
So we're back with Stephanie Southerland, voice of Madame Blueberry and Cauliflower. How's it going?
Hello. Good. Happy, I don't remember what day of the week it is. Happy day to you. Who knows? Who really knows? It's all a blur at this point.
Do you ever just forget what year it is?
Yeah, in fact, I was I was thinking about I can't remember what it was. I was watching a TikTok and they were like that's so 2018. I was like, that's only 2 years ago. And then I was like, no, that's 5 years ago. Like, time is so weird. It just marches on.
I'll tell you what, on the new year, it's so hard to remember, like when you're writing a date down on the calendar,
Oh,
not to
yeah.
write the past year, you know?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I feel like I do really well, like the first couple weeks, and then I revert back to the old year. I'm like, 2023. Yay, we're starting off good. I'm remembering. And then it's like 2022. And I'm like, no, exactly. It's like
How
once
did the
the consciousness leaves, my mind goes blank.
Me too, me too. So last time we were talking, you said you had 2 cats you were fostering, and then 2 weeks later they got a new home. How'd that go over?
Great. Oh my gosh, it's always a constant rotation. We had 2 kittens just now. One got adopted on Tuesday, the other one got adopted yesterday,
Aw,
and now now we have a mama and her 6 babies, and
6?
yeah,
Oh
six
my
babies.
gosh.
And we've actually had them for like 2.5 weeks now. And so they're, so poor mama, when we first got them, they were only 2 weeks old. They had just barely started opening their eyes.
Aw,
And now they're 4.5 weeks old and they are like running around. They escaped their little playpen that we keep them in.
it's so cute.
And oh my gosh, they're just precious little things. And they're starting to become little troublemakers as they're coming into their own. But yeah, we introduced them to the canned food yesterday, starting to help mama out because their teeth are coming in, and weaning them off of her just little by little. Around 5 weeks is when you start doing that. And
Aw.
they're they're just like chowing down. It's hilarious. They get the meat shakes with the excitement of this new food and
Aw,
over excitement of this wild thing they're tasting.
it's so sweet. They're like,
They're
oh my
so
gosh, food,
yeah. Oh my gosh, it's the cutest thing. And
solid food.
they love it. It's wild. Some batches, oh, excuse me, bubble in my throat.
You're
Some
good.
batches of kittens are a little bit more particular, and it takes them a long time to like really get used to, like, to transition from the bottle uh to the dish essentially. And this is the first batch we've ever had mama and babies, and we were thinking, oh, it might be really hard for them to wean off of her, but they've just been like, oh, this is great, we'll take it. And I think it's really good because mama's been getting a little uh let's say frustrated with their sharp tiny teeth.
Cranky.
Yeah, they're just sharp little teeth, sharp little mouths. So yeah, it's been pretty fun.
That's awesome. We tried to
Yeah.
foster a cat recently, and he was little bit crazy. Got even crazier when he got his new owner.
Oh my goodness. It's so funny how that happens.
It is.
Their personalities just shine.
They do.
Yeah, the
Some
little
personalities more evil than others.
uh-huh. Oh, exactly. The little boy of the last batch, the ones that just got adopted. So he got adopted on Tuesday, and
Oh,
he was just so rambunctious. And he would we have these window shades, and he would like do the little wiggle, and then he'd leap and grab onto the shade. So now we have a giant gash in one of them. And it's like, oh my gosh, you're just a little naughty creature, but you're so cute. And thankfully he now has a brother that he can rough house with. What's the
thankfully for
phrase?
him, not for the brother.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. He's gonna well, actually, I'll have to check in with their adopter, but how that relationship's going.
Oh,
But yeah, it's pretty wild.
he's
We
got a
love them.
playmate.
Exactly. We love it.
I think cats will just play with anything, you know? Like if they don't have a playmate, they'll climb your curtain. So it's probably best that they have a playmate.
Oh yeah. I always say to people who are looking for a cat, like, two is better than one. And so people come and they're like, I'm really only interested in one kitten, and I'll be like, okay, but two is better than one, because then it just gives them it redirects their attention, so they're getting into less that they shouldn't be getting into in the first place.
It's like, I'll tell you what, you take the one kitten, give it a week, you're going to want a second one. You're going to want some of that attention off of
Uh-huh.
your
Yeah,
leg or
exactly.
the curtain.
Uh-huh. Well, and that little boy that I was just talking about, the family that he went to, they adopted a kitten in
Aw.
December who's around the same age. He was a little bit older, so about 4.5 months, and they adopted their other kitten in December, and they're like, he needs a playmate. So it's meant to be. They got that idea pretty quick.
Oh, that's awesome.
We love it. They're so
That's
cute.
that's really good that you do that too, because I think trying to foster the one cat, I think that's the most I could handle.
Oh my
He
gosh.
would
Well,
he would climb up like I had like this big rubber boot I would wear, right?
uh-huh.
Anytime I went into the room he was in, because he will grab onto your leg and just hold on, teeth, claws. Like you can lift your leg off the ground and he will be holding
He's
onto
like,
it.
yeah. Well, two is easier than one, even when you're fostering, Finn.
That's true. That's true. That is true. We have another cat, but he wasn't,
He wasn't
into
interested.
playing. Yeah, he's
Oh,
old.
totally. Yeah, we have our two cats, and one of them's very nurturing, and the other is like, do not touch me or I will. I don't know. She's feisty. She's the master of the bop, where she's like swat swat bop bop.
The
And
queen.
so the queen, truly. And we say that she's like the cranky aunt who's just like, please, I
The
don't do
cranky aunt.
I don't do kids. Like, get away.
It's the
And
grandma that doesn't bake cookies.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, we say our other cat is like the nurturing mama,
No.
and gives them the love they need, especially when we don't have a mama cat around. And then we say our other cat, the cranky one, she is the disciplinarian who is like, nope, can't get away with that.
The principal.
Truly, that's such a good way of looking at it. She's the principal of our homeschool for kittens.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's a
So
great time.
the first question I had for you about voiceover. What are your future aspirations with voiceover? Are there any projects specifically that you're looking at that you would like to get involved in?
Oh my
Anything you're
gosh.
applying for right now that you're hoping for?
Oh, everything really. I think it's the longer I've been in this career, the more I'm just like, you know what, work is work, and I would love to do a lot more prelay animation. I mean, always like working for Disney television animation is a big goal. Working for Nickelodeon animation is another huge goal.
That would be
Um,
amazing.
yeah, so that's kind of what I have my heart set upon right now. Same with Warner Brothers Animation. I mean, I feel like it's just all the big animation houses. I really, really would love to work on projects with. And so yeah, every day there's auditions and various projects at those studios. And yeah, to be a working actor is ultimately the goal, but I would say more specifically to be very busy in prelay animation is the ultimate goal.
Wait, so you do animation as well as voice acting?
Oh, animation as in like animation voice acting.
Oh,
Yeah.
I got
So
you. I got you.
yeah, so working in prelay animation as a voice actor is the goal.
Super
And
cool.
yeah, and I'm just always grateful to be working. I'm working on a lot of video games right now. And I love it, and I'm just really grateful to be able to be in the booth, and that this is my primary source of income. But yeah, I would definitely love to do more, fill my schedule more with doing prelay animation voiceover.
That's awesome.
It's
That's awesome. And what you're doing now is amazing, you know?
Oh, thank you. I love it, and I'm grateful every day that this is my reality.
So your I mean your vocal range is amazing. Like when you listen
Oh,
to,
thank you.
specifically, obviously I'm thinking VeggieTales, but you've done a lot more. But Madame
Mhm.
Blueberry and Callie, like you can't tell it's the same person voicing them,
That's always the goal.
which
That's
is the
always
goal.
the goal.
That's the goal.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I enjoy, gosh, I just enjoy being able to like put on these different personalities, and I think we've talked before about how acting is the number one, and then the voice follows. And so it's just really fun to look at these characters, kind of get to know them. The whole what's Meisner technique of what do they want, who are they talking to, like what are their likes, who are they as individuals, and then from there the voice just like it comes organically. And yeah, and speaking of auditions, like if it's along the lines of what they're hoping for, then amazing. But sometimes it's not, but it still was, a fun acting choice to make, do in an audition. And yeah, that's the goal. You got to have fun and make yourself laugh in those
Oh, for sure.
auditions.
For sure.
Take
If you can
those
make yourself
risks.
laugh, other people will laugh.
Exactly. So yeah.
So when you're in the booth recording, do you ever just like wave your arms around to get into the character?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, it's funny. Now I'm in an actual vocal booth.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, I've been in this for just about a year, not quite a year, but getting close. But in my previous place, we were in this tiny little one bedroom apartment, and it had it was a very strange closet where you like had to walk in like straight in, but it was, what was it, 3.5 feet by like 5 feet. No, that's even bigger. Like it was like only like 2.5 feet. But it was pretty deep, so there was only like one rod. It was like a walk-in closet but not a walk-in closet. So anyway, I recorded, that's what I had converted into my booth. And I was just like constantly like hitting my arms on the walls, like like flailing as I'm doing certain characters. And so now in this booth that I have, I'm like, I feel like I can really move around and flail my arms Kermit the Frog style and whatnot.
Yay!
And I'm not hitting this guy. Hey! But yeah, I'm not hitting things. I'm not like bumping my mic as often as I used to. I still do bump my mic occasionally when I'm really flailing, but yeah, the physicality is important. And depending on each character, one may have more physicality than the other.
That really helps the voices happen.
Oh, totally. Yeah, and it's funny how just like moving your hand a certain way. Oh, I guess you can't see me. I don't have my camera hooked up right now, but like moving my hand a certain way could make me feel a little bit fancier. Or if I shake my hands or whatever, it might make me a little more excited and a little bit more maybe wacky or what have you. It's yeah, the movement really makes a difference and elevates a character, I would say.
You do so many voices and they're just so different, like every character. That's what one of the people was asking me to ask you. They were like, how does she voice Madame Blueberry and then I think it's Jean from Genshin? They said they're so different. They're so different. I would never have thought they were the same person voicing them. You know,
Oh,
like
that's such a compliment. Thank you.
because there are
Yeah.
lots of Genshin fans in the VeggieTales fandom too, which is
Yes.
weird because those two don't really go together. But
Right? It's so true. But yeah, and I love it. I love they're such different worlds, and yet we can all enjoy those two worlds. And yeah, it's funny because like Jean is just so calm, and you know, I feel so much responsibility on her shoulders, and so of course that's going to reflect in her voice and how she responds to the world. And then Madame Blueberry is just very like, I'm a diva, and you know, she's more grand and boisterous, and so of course that's going to reflect in her voice as well. And plus she's an opera singing blueberry, so of course she's going to speak louder and, you know, be more, I guess I just said it, be more grand in her emotes. So
man, we live in a
it's,
world where you can be an opera singing Blueberry. That's just crazy.
I know, what in the world. We love her for it.
We do.
It's
Like
the
you said
best.
last time, one of those legacy characters.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love it. I'm grateful. I think I say it a lot, but I really am grateful to get to play all these wild and different personalities.
That's awesome. So, what's your advice for aspiring voice actors? And I believe we touched on this a little bit last time, but
Yeah. So let's see. I always tell people go to iwannabeavoiceactor.com I want to be a voiceactor.com, which is a website that D. Bradley Baker, a
that's
very
right.
well-known voice actor, created. Because as voice actors, we're always asked, how do you get into it? Like, what do I do? And it's always the same things. And so D graciously put together this incredible website that is like all encompassing. It's like how to get started. But I guess on a basic level, just start with acting classes. Really learn your acting technique, because like what we were just saying, the the voice is secondary, the acting is number one. And so get in those acting classes, really learn how to express as a different character, how to step outside yourself, get out of your head, get out of your own way. But yeah, I would say that is the very, very most basic thing to start with. And then after that, go on to Dee's website and check it out. But yeah, because everyone's journey is a bit different, but it should always start with those acting classes and performing classes, and then from there move on to eventually getting mic training, how your mic technique and whatnot, and then getting demos, and then reaching out to agents and so on and so forth. But acting is always number one.
That's awesome. You really got to, like I said earlier, just get into the character. You know, you are that character.
Exactly. Yeah, and like just being able to get out of yourself and into the brain of a character is only going to make the performance better and really make you connect with the character, make the audience connect more with the character, because it's going to feel less like just like a silly character voice and more like a living, breathing human creature, animal, whatever. What's the thing? The animal, mineral,
The modern major general.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So whether you're playing a vegetable, an animal, a mineral,
an inanimate object.
Exactly. The acting is going to be number one for whatever you're playing.
Well, for sure. It helps to be in a room where like there aren't other people, so you can just be crazy, you know. But what's really great is if you're doing a voice and then somebody walks in on you.
Oh my gosh, I remember as a kid, I was so obsessed with Disney movies. I would just watch them over and over again, and I remember being on the swing set. Did I tell this story already? I feel like I've told someone
I
this
don't
story,
think so.
but okay, I was on the swing set in the backyard, and I have an older brother. He's 6 years older than me, and I was on the swing set, and I was I don't know what it was. It was like a seat. There were two seats that faced each other. It was almost like a swing that was like a cart. I don't know. It was in the old days of metal swing sets, but I would put one foot on one seat, one foot on the other seat, and I remember and hold onto the bars, and I would just push it and swing myself and sing a whole new world. And I remember just like belting it at the top of my lungs, and then my brother and his friends, I was probably like 7, maybe 8. And so my older brother, my teenage brother or preteen brother came out, and he and his friends were like, oh, but I was like in my own world. And they caught me, and I was so embarrassed. And I was like, I'll never sing again.
I'm ruined. My career is over.
Right. And then, I lived through it, and and I can look back and laugh now. But yeah, it's always funny when like you're really imagining yourself in a different character or acting a different character, and someone walks in. And I actually really love recording in person, and like when the team is there, and they're getting to see you in the booth, like essentially being another character. And I remember a couple of the early VeggieTales sessions before the pandemic hit, or excuse me, the VeggieTales show sessions before the pandemic hit, where where we were all just like laughing so hard because Madame Blueberry or Callie, they're just like so ridiculous. And I'm sure it was just pretty entertaining to watch. Well, my flailing, really.
They have such personality, like those are two very energetic characters.
Yes, totally. Yeah, and they just have their own vibes that they bring, and it's just so fun to embody them.
I was recording like some VeggieTales impressions once, because I get on calls with people in the fandom, because we're all just nerds, right? And we're goofy adult VeggieTales fans who just want to impersonate the voices. So we got on the call, and we were just going back and forth, and one person was doing a Mr. Lunt impression, and I was doing a Larry impression. And so I'm at the mic, and I'm just like, Mr. Lunt, that's crazy. And then someone opens the door and walks in. I think it was my brother, and he was trying to get like some clothes from his closet, and he just looks at me like this. He's like, What was that? What are you doing? But I'm on the call with the person, so I can't stop. So I'm just continuing to
Yeah.
voice it. He's just looking at me, and he's like, "What? Huh?"
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. And yeah, when people don't expect it, it's that much funnier to see what their reactions are like.
It's so much fun.
Oh, it's the best. Just the best.
It is. It's phenomenal.
It is. I agree.
Well, thank you so much for making time to come back on here once again. Really, really appreciate that.
Thanks, Finn. Thanks for having me. I'm just grateful to be a part of essentially like a bigger universe and to be a part of a show that means so much to people. And yeah, I'm here for it. I just feel really grateful to be a part of it.
Because that's the thing. I've been interviewing like fandom members who have been on the podcast, and the three questions I ask them: what are your hopes for the future of VeggieTales? What are your hopes for the future of the fandom? And what are your future aspirations? But like, I tweaked the questions for you because you're not part of the fandom. You are part of why the fandom exists.
Yeah, which is wild to think about.
I guess.
And I don't know if I touched on this last time we chatted, but like, I didn't get into this like hoping to like be famous, even though like with voice acting, it's not like you're famous. But I don't know. I expected to be kind of like a utility player doing a lot of the side character voices and whatnot. And so like it has been mind blowing really to see the fandoms be excited about these characters that I get to play. And it's really humbling to know that people care so much and love this stuff so much. And that I get to be a small part of it is just amazing. It's an incredible opportunity and experience.
You have a certain energy you bring to the characters that kind of makes them people's favorite,
Oh, thank you. Oh, that's so kind. Yeah, I mean they're written so well that it's easy to connect with them and easy to get a chuckle from them and just enjoy their antics. And so I just love getting to be a part of it. I was a fan from such an early age as well, so I kind of like just embodied what I had met already.
And that you had a band director named Mr. Lunt. That probably helped too.
That's true. That's probably the biggest thing, right?
That's still amazing to me because I've never heard anyone with that name.
It's so wild. Yeah, he's now I can't remember which university he's at, but he's in Arizona as one of the choral or show choir directors at a university now. And yeah, Mr. Lent, he is amazing, and he taught me so much about singing and performing too. So pretty wild, I would venture to say.
He's not working at the Burger Bell?
He's not working there, not now anymore.
He got his cheeseburger and went for a higher goal.
Right, exactly.
Start with small aspirations and then just, reach for the stars.
Reach for the stars, yes. Exactly.
You may start with a cheeseburger, but just, put that effort in and you'll be the band director or a voice actor.
Exactly.
Well, once again, thank you so much.
Good. Thank you, Finn. Thank you for having me. It's always a joy talking to you.
Absolutely, you too.
All right, take care.
Those were my interviews from 2022 and 2023 with Sean Chiplock, Stephanie Southerland, and Kira Buckland. Fantastic people. All three of them very gracious to join the show and be among my first official guests to join. There was too much information here, too much wisdom garnered from them for me to go, I'm going to take it down because I don't like hearing myself. No, there's too much here. And hopefully you all enjoyed it, and hopefully you'll start the video back over again and listen to it all again. Maybe you'll catch even more the second time around. It's only 2.5 hours. I mean, come on.